We gonna?
That's when that other case starts. I can, yes. Okay.
Good morning. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's protest of renewal docket. Today is Thursday, April 27th, 2017. If you have a cell phone or any other electronic device, please put it on vibrate or silence it. When your case is called, please step up to the podium and state your name into the microphones clearly. If you're going to be giving testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in.
So, good morning. Today we're going to continue with the protest of renewal cases that we began last week. And as I indicated last week before we began, these really focus on two primary issues. The first is during the past year, from May of last year until the application was filed for renewal this year, we need to look at the history of the license and the establishment to see whether they've been conforming to our rules and regulations and what the community input is about them at that time. And then if we determine that that there's a problem with them, we can look beyond that to see what the history has been with the establishment and with the licensees in determining under our statutory requirement whether they meet the standards for renewal or whether the board, should deny them that right. So we're going to begin this morning with one case, and then we have two on the afternoon docket.
Calling the first case, Jose Luna, Casa Luna Sports Bar Incorporated, trading as Casa Luna Sports Bar, 500 South Lehigh Street. There's a protest of renewal of a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Counsel?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, Madam Commissioner. Sean Harvey, 309 South Conkling Street, Baltimore 21224, for the applicant who's standing to my right, Mr. Luna.
Mr. Harvey, well, let's ask everyone who's up here to raise their right hands, please.
Raise your hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and at the request of counsel, because Mr. Luna has some difficulty with English, he asked whether our Inspector Perez, who's bilingual, could assist him here. And, so we're not imposing that on you. It was at your request. We're trying to assist you.
I appreciate that, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. And yes, it was at my request, and I spoke with Mr. Perez, and he's
Okay.
agreed to translate.
Okay, before we begin, do you know whether Mr. Luna has ever been represented by White for Taylor Preston? Because his name showed up on our conflict sheet.
Really?
Or-
As far as I know, he hasn't. Let me ask him.
Could be a different person. I don't see. I'm going to call that.
He's,
Yes.
Yes. Do you mind? Inspector Perez, you have to take a separate oath, okay, to be an interpreter, and he'll impose it.
Do you solemnly swear, raise your hand please, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the interpretation you will give in this hearing from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English will be the best?
Okay, and thank you, Inspector, for doing this. What was his response about the, no conflict? Okay, and Mr. Harvey, you have any problem with me sitting on this case?
none whatsoever,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Chairman.
All right, now, is there anyone here from the community on South Lehigh Street or in that vicinity who wishes to testify about this? Please come forward. If you all come to this side, I need to have you raise your right hands as well.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and ma'am, we're recorded, so when you speak, you have to lean into these mics, okay? So one at a time, give us your name, please, and spell it for the reporter.
Sure. It's Megan Bazowski, and then MEGAN, B as in boy, ISASKY.
Okay, Ms. Bosowski, thank you. And, sir?
Paul R. Wilson, Paulwilson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. So, did you want to say anything preliminarily, counsel, before we hear from them?
No, Mr. Chairman, we just,
Okay, Ms. Bosowski, why don't you tell us why you're here?
Sure, of course. Do you mind if I stand? So I actually initially bought a house at 633 South Lehigh Street, which is just the block over from
When did
Cass.
you do that?
That was in March 2014. And then I purchased 502 South Lehigh Street, which is right next to the bar because I really love the house. And I was living with roommates at 633 South Lehigh Street. So I kind of wanted to get away from the roommate situation and just live by myself. So I was in the house like painting and like the music was loud and the door was open. And I feel like there was just like a lot of foot traffic out front. I'm not sure if it was drug dealing or something like that, but just a lot of young kids. And I had taken off work on a Friday. So I know they don't open until later in the afternoon, but it's just like the foot traffic there. And then as soon as they opened, it's like people piled in there and the door was open and the music was pretty loud. So I did some painting and like preliminary work and was there like a few nights like later in the week just cleaning and like getting things together. And then I just kind of like pushed it over and I was like, I'm just going to stay where I am because I was more comfortable with it. But I mean, needless to say, I'm still in the same block, still have the same problems. And so I purchased 502 South Lehigh in about March 2016, so a little over a year ago. So then I like reached out like Facebook pages to see if I could find a tenant for 502 South Lehigh Street just because I wasn't really interested in it anymore and it didn't really fit my lifestyle, that sort of thing. So Paul behind me, I found him. It's himself and his girlfriend. So they were willing, like we knew about the situation, but I didn't realize it was as bad as it really was. So, I mean, it's like Lehigh is a one-way street going towards Eastern Avenue. So there's drunk drivers leaving Casa Luna. Instead of making the right on Eastern Avenue, they're making the left, going down Lehigh Street the wrong way and just sideswiping cars like left and right. And I have a parking pad at 633, so I wasn't as affected from it, but it's still just unbelievable. I'm like, how can someone like run a business like that and like just be professional? Like I'm in the Greektown community and I'm like a pending board member of the Greater Greektown Neighborhood Association, so I do really care about the community and like want things to be done correctly. And like I go over to Zorba's and like walk down to Zorba's and I never have any problems at Zorba's. Like the music is quaint, like the door is closed, like they're just authentic like Greeks and want to do well for the community. So it's like a bar that knows how to run a bar, and I feel like if they properly run it, then there shouldn't be any issues. But if you can't operate a bar to the standards of the liquor like board rules and regulations, then I feel like it's just like a blatant disregard for the rules and a waste of like 311. Like I have multiple 311 and 911 complaints as well, and it's just like the cops are almost like wasting their time having to drive by. And I know John Chrysomalis, he did like a liquor board investigation, like just a drive-by, and one of the drive-bys, I think Liam was on the call
Objection.
with him.
Objection to.
Well, she's testifying what someone else would it's hearsay.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. I mean, we're not strictly bound, so I'll overrule, but I understand it doesn't bear the weight that it would.
So I'm like a pending board member of Greater Greektown Neighborhood Association, and Liam is the president on the neighborhood association. So I know we submitted the liquor license protest on behalf of the community, as like we have the monthly meetings from there. So per discussions with Liam, I know he was on a ride along with John Chrysomalis, and it wasn't that they were going to that bar, but it was just one of the things that they were riding along, and then they were open after hours serving patrons after 2 o'clock. So that came up, and I
You know
believe
when that was?
that was in November 2016.
So we have a letter from Mr. Davis, and I think you've seen that, right?
Yes, I did see it.
Yeah, okay.
And I have the 311 and 911 complaints as well.
Okay. Have you
And
seen
then
those?
this is, so I have cameras at 502 South Lehigh Street, which is great, but this is someone, I guess their sanitary conditions are just like down the drain, but that's someone going to the restroom on the parking pad of my house.
I haven't seen any of this.
Here. Let Mr. Harvey see that, okay?
There you go. And then these are the 311 and 911
Okay.
complaints, if you
Thank
need
you.
them.
Okay.
There's right there. I don't know who's taking a squat, but
And where is this?
this is at 502 South Lehigh Street, and this is Casa Luna right here, the brick wall.
And is this a back alley? Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, so let me try to focus you a little bit. Did you want to add something to that, or are you going to just sort of reinforce what she's saying?
I was asked to testify, so if she
I'll
wraps
let-
up, I'll testify in support of that for the record, and then I'll make a
Okay. So, focusing on the past year, okay? So, you say that the music is loud. So what times of day and night are we talking about, and what
Sure.
time period of the year and that sort of thing?
So he doesn't open until I think 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's primarily at night. But during the afternoon hours, like in the summer, it's obviously daylight much longer. So the door will stay open until I guess it gets dark, and then the door will close. So once he was fined for being open after 2 o'clock in November, I feel like it was just excessive around the holidays, and Paul had family like in town visiting. So I don't know if he was trying to make back that money after he was shut down for a few days and trying to make the patrons happy. But it's definitely like, sometimes it's a Monday night, and I'm like, people have to get up and go to work like the next day. Like, I don't know how you can operate like that. But it's
So you're talking about the noise.
the noise, but also like the alley is just always dirty. Like right there on the corner of Lehigh and Eastern Avenue, there's
And that's
bottles
been within the
everywhere.
past year?
Yes.
Okay. And the foot traffic that you talked about, so what did you mean by that? That there's just a lot of people going in and out?
Just like a lot of people hanging out outside, like when I was in there painting, and even like recent, like if I drive, so I live on 633, so instead of making the right at the stop sign, sometimes I'll go down Lehigh and make the right on Eastern and wrap back around to O'Donnell. So I feel like there's people sitting on my stoop because his is on the corner, and the door opens and it's just like gonna hit the people that are sitting there because there's no tables outside or anything. So just sitting on my stoop, like that happens all the time. And then just like loud music, the drug dealing like in the back alley is just excessive. Like I feel like there's always a car parked back there, and then I guess the sanitary conditions as well are just
Okay, and is it the only bar in the area?
it's the only bar on Lehigh Street right there. I mean, there are other bars on Eastern Avenue that I don't have a problem with at all. And the community of Greektown doesn't have a problem with, but this bar is like a nuisance to the community. And I feel like with the new Ryan homes going up and everything else, it's just kind of like not a good thing for the community to move it forward.
Okay. Do you all want a question or want to have the cross first?
Mine whisper.
Let's do the
You guys
cross
whisper.
first.
I'm just having trouble hearing her when you guys are talking.
Okay, Mr. Harvey, do you have questions for Ms. Bozeski?
Just a few.
Sure.
You keep saying you live at 633. 633 what?
South Lehigh,
Okay, so that's,
just a block over.
well, it's just a block. It's actually the end of the next block. Is that correct?
It's in the middle,
The middle? Okay.
but I'm still in vicinity. I can see
But
the
you don't
light,
live, you
too.
don't live right next door.
I own that house, yes.
You own it, but you don't live there. Is that correct?
No, Paul lives there.
Okay. Have you ever lived there?
I was planning on living there until
Have you ever lived there?
No.
Okay. Now, you mentioned twice about drug dealing.
Yes.
How do you attribute drug dealing that you see? You said you've seen drug dealing in the alley in the back. How do you
Yes.
attribute that to the bar?
I mean, who else is doing? I'm not doing drug dealing at the back of my house. So the patrons from the bar are sitting in a car waiting for someone from the bar to
How
come
do you
out.
know they're patrons
'Cause
of
I
the
have
bar?
cameras at the back of my house.
Did you bring pictures
Yes.
Yes.
of drug dealing?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's open to interpretation within the context of what's
Mike
been used.
Lindsay, I don't know what he's saying.
And he hasn't testified yet, so let's stick to the cross-examination of this witness.
And have there ever been any arrests of drug dealers in that alley?
I don't believe so, but there have been multiple 311 and 911 complaints.
Well,
that
I'm familiar
aware
with
of.
that. As a matter of fact, there were, as part of the things that were submitted online concerning this complaint, there were 10 311 calls that were mentioned from May 1st, 2016 to May 31st, 2017.
There were much more than that. I have documentation of it.
You need to be quiet and just wait till you're done. Yeah, that's okay.
And according to what was provided to me online, was...
I mean, I used my resources to the best of my
Okay.
ability.
Now, did you make these 311 complaints? Are you the one who made all of the complaints?
It's from the community, no.
You didn't make any of them?
I made a few 311 complaints, but
Just
they're
a
not
few?
all from me. You can look at the records.
Did you ever,
I actually talked to Castle or Jose Luna, and I tried to reason with him and ask him to turn down the music, but then it never stopped. It just continued to be excessive. And then he talked about selling the bar, and I was like, well, there's a lot of rehabs going up, and he doesn't own the location. He doesn't own 500 South Lehigh Street. So I asked him to put me in contact with the owner of the property to see if they would be willing to sell the property, because there are a lot of rehabbed houses going in. People are trying to develop the neighborhood for a better Greektown community. And he said he wants to sell it for like $150,000. And I thought that was just for the liquor license. And then for the building, that's just in terrible shape.
so
like
you have an
300.
interest in purchasing this
No.
business, is that correct? Well, did you text him saying that
Yes.
you will offer him $80,000 for the business?
Did not want to offer him.
Did you text him and ask and tell him he has three choices, either to sell the bar to you for $80,000 or to lower the music, or give you the owner of the building's name, or you will see to it that his liquor license is taken away from him? Did you text him that?
Yes, because I tried to remediate the problem to lower the music and do anything
Okay,
I
so you
could
have a
before I took
monetary
this
interest in this
action.
whole thing, correct?
No,
No.
I have no interest in buying that property.
And you also mentioned drunk driving. How do you say that there are, how can you testify here that there are drunk drivers making illegal left-hand turns onto Eastern Avenue that are stemming from that bar?
Who else is? If someone's driving down Lehigh Street, it's the last street, so they're either going home or they're going to the bar.
Now, you said that this is the only bar on Lehigh Street?
On the 500 block of, well, there's a bar across the street which has no problems at all.
So in answer to the chairman's question, you said this is the only bar. It's actually, there's another one. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
overlooked it, but I don't frequent there often, so.
All right. And then you also said that you're either a member of or becoming a member of the
Pending board
board
member.
of this
Greektown.
Greektown Neighborhood Association,
Correct.
which is the association that submitted this protest to the liquor board. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with the authorship of that letter?
The authorship of it?
Did you write that letter?
I helped in writing the letter, correct?
Okay.
And I signed the letter.
You characterized my client's running of this tavern as lawless.
Correct.
First of all, what do you mean by lawless?
Having 311 and 911 complaints constantly is just wasting the police department and enforcement department's time when they're coming out for repeated violations, one after one, for noise complaints, for being open after hours, which he has been. I mean, this is just the
But
list
you're the
goes
one who's
on.
making most of these calls, is that correct?
It's the community. If you look at the 311 and 911 complaints,
Does it show who made those calls?
I'm not sure what the details entail, but I have the support.
It says in the letter, the persistent negative impacts directly associated to this establishment include trash, loitering, excessive noise, drunk driving, illegal parking, and drug trafficking. None of which you can specifically state today.
The illegal parking, Jose will sometimes park his car on the concrete in front of the bar if there's no parking. The drug trafficking, I talked about that outside of the alley at the back of my house. I have the camera footage, and it's clear that none of my neighbors...
Was an arrest made?
No.
Did you call the police?
Yes. They're going to flee from the scene when the police are called. And the trash and loitering, I mean, you can see that this
All right.
patron is going to the restroom on my parking pad.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. How do you know this if he's doing what you say he's doing? How do you know that he came from this bar?
I mean, no one else is walking down the alley and just going to go to the bathroom in the middle of the yard when it was at 1:18 p.m. or a.m. in the
Oh, so
morning.
no one else would be in that alley except if they came from that bar? Is that what
I
you're saying?
mean, the people are hanging out outside of the bar doing drug dealing, drug trafficking. I'm pretty sure that the conditions inside of the bar are unsanitary and not up to code, so I don't think the toilet works. So I'm just saying, they have no other resort. Where else are they gonna go to the
Have you ever
bathroom?
been inside the bar?
Yeah,
And have you used the toilet?
no,
Have you seen it?
no. But I can tell from the conditions
Okay,
inside
no
of the bar
further-
that it's
no
not
further questions.
sanitary.
Okay. Commissioners have questions for Ms. Bozeski?
Can I defer to you?
Sure. So, Ms. Bozeski, I appreciate your time. I appreciate Mr. Wilson's time, who I know we'll hear from. And I do find your testimony credible. One of the questions I have is, are you aware if Mr. Luna has security?
I believe there's one person, like just through discussions with Paul, I'm not sure, like I've never seen a security person there, so I'm not sure. Maybe they're there like once a night, but I'm not, like I'm not positive.
And maybe, again, maybe this is a question, and that's okay for Mr. Wilson. Are you aware if Mr. Luna addresses the sanitary issues in and around the bar?
He does clean up some of the bottles sometimes, but other than that, I mean, I drove by to see my parking pad because I just had that done recently, and the feces was sitting on the parking pad. So, I mean, those issues aren't addressed. And the corner of, when you go into Crown Industrial, there's like a little grass area, and that's always filled with trash. So people are kind of like parking there and dumping too. So I feel like if there was a house there and it was more residential community, that wouldn't be a problem because someone would be there and like at all times, so during the day too.
And again, this is a question probably, hopefully, Mr. Wilson wants to address, but have you, when you obviously have reached out to Mr. Luna,
Correct.
and have you found him to be generally cooperative? Have you found him to listen? Have you found him to try and address your concerns?
So it's kind of hard for me to communicate with him just because of the language barrier there. So I have tried, like I tried to put it in Google and translate it and then text it to him, then those sorts of things. So I feel like more recently, like when I first bought the house, like the music wasn't that bad, but I think he has had some health issues come up and he hasn't been able to be at the location on a more frequent basis. So he's been letting other people run the business for him, and that's kind of where, and I even walked in there, I've walked in there before and tried to have the DJ, like I have the DJ's number and tried to like text them and be like, can you please turn the music down? So I've definitely tried, and like this was kind of my last resort because I was just getting fed up with it. And at the same time, like it's kind of my livelihood too. I know like he has kids, he has families, but I now own this house and I have to either live there or I have to find tenants, and tenants don't want to live there if there are issues like this.
Understood. And then I guess lastly, assuming the commission decides to renew the license,
Sure.
one of the options I'd encourage you and Mr. Wilson to consider is working directly with Inspector Perez, who's to your far right.
Okay.
It's an area that he covers, he specializes in, he speaks fluent Spanish, obviously.
Sure.
And so I'd encourage that, and that's
Okay.
all I have right now.
Before Commissioner Moore, Mr. Harvey, what's the capacity of this bar?
Capacity, I think it's around 30, isn't it?
La capacidad del negocio. 65.
Around 65.
Okay. All right, thank you, I'm sorry.
Okay, and what are the hours, the permitted hours?
Well, the permitted hours are 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., but he doesn't keep it open that.
Yo abro a las 6 de la tarde, las 7, sometimes 7. My situation sick. Sometimes, pero I never open 4. Nunca abro a las 4 de la
Never
tarde.
open at 4.
Okay, so it's basically 4 p.m. to 2 a.m.?
Pretty much 6 or 7
Oh.
p.m. ¿A qué hora? ¿To what time?
¿Qué?
¿Hasta qué hora?
Hasta las 2 de la
Until 2 in the morning.
Until 2 a.m. All right, and you indicated to your chest and showed us what looks to be some scars. You have some current heart.
Heart surgery.
Triple bypass in my chest.
Okay, was that recent?
It's for the
No, en 2013.
2013.
Ah, okay.
Pero siempre tengo que ir al hospital.
I had to go to the hospital and follow up on it
2 o 3 veces al año tengo que
2 or
ir.
3 times a year.
The chest pain,
Okay.
too much stress sometimes. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds like there's stress on both sides, to be clear. And there might be a way to resolve it, there might not be. But I wanted to ask you, Ms. Bazansky, there was mention of a text message where, do you have that text message or?
client does.
I do not have the text
All right,
message.
could someone just tell me the words that were used in that text message?
It's a text
Well,
out.
I got it on my phone here. It's fine.
You had someone, can I, on the record, ask a question about that same subject?
Maybe I can get an answer to my question and then you can go
Well,
next.
it concerns this.
Oh, okay.
What he has is in Spanish, and I was going to ask if you had someone translate it.
No, I used
Well-
Google, like I said
Oh,
before.
okay.
Let Mr. Perez read it for us in English.
Sorry. Aquí, tres opciones.
3 options: sell the bar for 80,000 cash, keep the music down. You can keep the business, but you don't have to be loud.
No comprendo.
I'm going to speak to the liquor board and not permit your license to be renewed. Try to keep the music down. You're not a nightclub.
Okay. So, do you acknowledge that that's a text message?
Because I tried to reason it with him and tried to come up with a solution before I took this route.
All right, and when you said 3 options, those are the options that you were giving the owner?
Just like to try and reason it with him to come up with a plan of action to deal with the
Okay.
situation.
Okay. Did you want to add something?
No. Yo le dije a ella que no puedo vendérselo por 80,000 porque más de ahí debo yo porque tengo que pagarle.
He's saying he can't sell the bar for $80,000 because he owes more than that in the business.
Okay.
Yo
So,
le dije a ella se lo iba a vender por 120,000.
He said I could sell it for $120,000.
okay, so rest assured, we're not here to negotiate the sale or the transaction, okay? I just wanted to understand, I mean, I'm just trying to get an assessment of sort of the motivation and all of the little factors that brought us here today. And I'm just really want to understand what's going on here, because I'm not sure I do completely. So you were saying sell the bar for $80,000 cash. Now, was that something
I
that?
mean, I wasn't planning on purchasing it, but I know
Okay.
a lot of people in the community and I know a lot of investors and developers that,
Okay.
like, just anything to try and help
Okay.
the situation.
And then you said something like you're not
Nightclub.
a nightclub, keep the noise down. So there's what I want to focus on. Is your main concern the noise?
I think it's attributable to all the factors, but the main problem is the noise, the door being open, the drugs, and just the people coming into the community that don't live in the community. Because the Greektown community with the new Ryan homes, there's a lot of young professionals. There's a lot of like older Greek people that are still there, that have lived there their whole lives. So these people that are coming to Castle Luna are coming from outside of our community.
So the one
into
things
the
that it rings a little unpleasant to talk about outsiders and older Greek versus younger Latino. We go in a direction that I don't think is helpful.
Sure.
So I just wanted to focus on the actual issues. So it's noise. You have allegations of drug dealing, but I'm not sure that there's anything confirmed, and I guess our chief inspector will testify and let us know about that. The photograph of the person defecating on your parking pad, how do you know that that person came from Casa Luna?
I think Paul can further support that because I don't live right next
Okay,
door.
so
and
you
he
don't
does.
know. So we're just talking with you right now, but you don't know.
But I'm aware of like everything that's going on from discussions with Paul.
Okay, so from your own experience, I mean, you're the property owner, and from your experience, I mean, you're being told by your tenant that there are problems. And have you made any 311 calls regarding drug dealing or 911 calls in that regard?
I have,
You
yes,
have.
yes.
And has that been within the last year?
Yes.
You have, okay. All right, I think that's it for me for right now.
Barbara, do you have any based on the commissioner's questions?
Only in light of Commissioner Greenfield's question, I don't believe that the question was actually answered. I believe the question concerned when you went to speak with Mr. Luna, what was his reaction? And you just talked about your own reaction.
Yeah.
Was he cooperative with you?
He was trying to be, but like I said, there was a language barrier, and then the problem persisted. So the problem wasn't resolved after I had multiple discussions with him. And it wasn't like I just had one discussion. Like I had to go in there like every Friday night, or like try and go in there Saturday afternoon before the bar would open, and I would think he would be there. So I mean, I've been in and out of the bar multiple times to try and.
No further questions.
If I could, so again, this may be a question better suited for Mr. Wilson, and if so, please tell me. Is it your experience that Mr. Luna is present at this establishment? I mean, frequently?
Not on a frequent basis anymore. He was, like, when I probably maybe like March of last year, but since then, since he's had heart troubles and like health problems, he hasn't been there as frequent as he used to.
In the instance that he's not, who, other than the DJ, is there a manager you reach out to? Is there someone who's...
It was just the DJ I was reaching out to, and then making the 311 and 911 complaints.
So part of this is, am I correct in stating that part of this is just not only the conditions, the music, the noise, the sanitary, all of that you're suggesting, but actually identifying the right responsible individual who can address these underlying issues. Is that part of the...
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
What, do you recall the date of the photo with the public
I think
defecation?
the date is on there.
It said February right on it.
It's February 18th.
February 18th.
February 18th. Okay. All right, because we have a record of a 311 complaint on December 24, 2016, and an inspector went out and found, quote, no evidence of public defecation.
Well, there
So
is-
I was,
I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think there are multiple
There
complaints.
is one of
on
February 18th, but yeah, is that
Yeah.
what you're referring to, Commissioner Moore?
I was referring to December
If you look on
24.
it over here,
There
the
is-
date of the actual thing.
And then again, on February 18, there was, an inspector went out and there was no evidence of public defecation observed. So I was just curious as to why
I think
there's
that
a,
might be a Paul type of.
okay, all right, we'll hold it for Paul.
Okay, anything further from this witness?
Nothing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Can Mr. Wilson come forward, please?
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and
Council.
without repeating everything that the young lady has said, what can you add to her testimony?
With the permission of everybody here, I'd like to just kind of restate the facts from my own perspective, and then perhaps with your patience, maybe editorialize.
Well, how long have you been in this place?
I moved into this property in the middle of August last year, 2016. Initially, my primary and consistent concern was the noise at the property. Has been stated previously, Mr. Luna is often not at the property, and those were the times in which the noise issue specifically were the worst. For the most part, Mr. Luna was, or genuinely made an attempt to be responsive to me when I reached out to him personally about the noise, but the solution was always temporary, and by temporary, I mean...
Slow you down for a second.
Oh, I'm
'cause-
sorry.
No, I just want to get a handle on this. So, there's a DJ playing music inside the establishment? Is that what's typically the noise?
I'll amplify that. There is often a DJ, which I believe per their license they're not allowed to have. That's included in live entertainment, DJs. But in other cases, it's just like an iPod plugged into a large...
Okay, and lots of speakers inside, is that
Yes,
what it is?
yes.
And then, are there any speakers outside?
No, sir.
And you hear it because you're next door or because the door is open? Why do you hear it?
Well, it's obviously substantially worse if the front door is open, but I hear it, I mean, through the walls. It has been on occasion loud enough to, chink glasses in my cabinets, There was one time on a Saturday towards the holidays where it was, I believe it was that Sunday just after Christmas, where, I mean, a painting came off my wall just from the bass, the vibration. I would like very much to say that, Mr. Luna has always been very friendly with me and has always made an attempt to be accommodating, but if he's not there personally at the property, if there was a solution to the noise problem, it was always very, very short-lived. I would also like to add that since Christmas time, the overall noise has been significantly abated, significantly.
Significantly what? I didn't hear that.
Abated, the noise hasn't been so bad, but has then brought in, into focus the rest of the issues, okay? Council is correct, there is another bar on the street. It's across the street, maybe halfway down the block. And by contrast, I mean, you don't even know that it's there.
Do they do any business?
I can't speak to that. I don't attend either establishment. But there's certainly people going in and out, but what there isn't is constantly groups of people congregating outside, loud, drunken behavior, fighting. Where's that, is this the
Yeah.
file? Okay, so we have, where's the 311s?
It's right over here.
Oh, thank you, okay. So you said there were how many 311 complaints that
That's
you were
what
able to
was,
find?
Well, we only have a record of 10.
Okay, so,
Excuse me. Are you under oath?
Yes,
Okay.
I brought it up, I was gonna bring it up earlier, but I have made an error. And there when I was counting and I recounted, and that there was 24 calls.
Okay.
okay.
And I submitted that earlier to the administration, but they didn't have time to get it to you.
Okay.
So I would like to state for the record that of those 24, I'm personally responsible for 4 of those, 2 of which being the public defecation, which I'll get to in a minute. In regards to drug activity specifically, okay, because I know there was some question about that, okay, to assert that the only indication of drug activity is arrests on record, I think that's a little silly, okay? I live there, personal observation, if there's a car parked in front of the building with a person in front, patrons of the bar coming out, making a hand-to-hand transaction through the window of the vehicle, going back in the bar, and this goes on for 3 to 4 hours. He could be giving them Jolly Ranchers. We could make that argument, but I doubt it very much, okay? That parking area just adjacent to the property is just a magnet for all types of bad activity, okay? Can we attribute that all to Mr. Luna? I don't think that's fair. No, he's a business. He's not responsible for what happens in his parking lot necessarily. But we talked to, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say this because this was other people's research, but it was brought forward that, everybody went knocking on doors on that block of Lehigh. Do you go to this bar? Does anyone in your family, does anyone who live here go to this bar? And they're only able to find one person on those whole 2 adjacent blocks who actually patronizes Luna's. And it does seem to me from my personal observations that it's a lot of people coming in from outside the area.
But that's not illegal.
No, of course it's not illegal, but I'm speaking in I don't have any statement about whether it's young people, old people, people with their people. It's not people on that block. We'll take that and do with it what you will.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing. I just want to be really, really, really clear. There are plenty of things that you can raise in terms of protesting a license, but the fact that the people that are coming in aren't the people that live there is speaking for myself, absolutely not persuasive. And I'm also very sensitive to, any indication that there are cultural or racial differences. I'm speaking. I need you to stop. I need you to just listen while I'm talking. Okay. That are racial or cultural differences that are driving the dispute. So I don't give that any weight whatsoever.
I apologize.
Okay, no worries. I just want to be very clear, and I don't have any tolerance for it.
For sake of clarity, what specifically did I say that had any cultural
Doesn't matter.
ramifications?
Give your testimony and let's move on.
Thank you. Okay, so continuing. In regards to drunken behavior, okay? Again, from the 2 a.m. hour to the 3 a.m. hour, I count on getting woken up most nights. Either yelling, fighting. I believe it was in December. I don't know if there was actually an arrest made or whether this is on record, but there was a case where the police were called. One of Luna's patrons came outside of the bar, some fight inside, came back with a hammer, and went up and down the block, smashing windows out of vehicles. That was December, wasn't it? Police were there. They did detain the fellow, but I don't know if there was any arrest made ultimately. I have been personally threatened by, I go out my front door, there's somebody sitting on my doorstep, hey, move along, I'll effing kill you, who do you think you are? Well, I live here. These things all culminate, I don't want to give the impression that this is every day, every week, but it is consistent. In regards to the question of how do we know that this is Mr. Luna's patrons defecating 6 times in my backyard or on my parking pad, a total of 6 times. I have cameras on the front of the building. These are row houses. They're all attached. It's one plane. I have a camera points directly down the block and has the entrance to his bar in view, and this one that you see here as well as several others. So I can see the patron at 1:16 walk out the front, talking, go around the corner, 1 minute later, come around to the back, and there were times where it's multiple people. So it may be an assumption that the facilities in the bar were out of order at some point, but that's an assumption. I don't have any material knowledge of his toilet being broken. All I know is that his patrons frequently relieve themselves in my backyard. I've had this conversation with him. His position is that it wasn't his patrons, and we just had to agree to disagree on that point.
Okay.
I would, of course, I'll wrap up. I would like to answer any questions that you guys have, but I would like to state for the record, I find Mr. Luna to be a very responsive and at least making a sincere attempt to be a responsible business owner, but it gives every indication, myself being a business person, it gives every indication of a business that's kind of grown its own legs and run away from it.
Mr. Harvey, you have questions for the witness?
Just a few, if I may. You mentioned something about Mr. Luna's parking lot. He has a parking lot?
I don't know, as I said, that he's not responsible for that area, but that's where his patrons park.
But again, the question, you have some idea that he has a parking lot associated with this tavern?
I believe I said the parking lot, not his.
Well, what parking lot are you talking about then? Let's
Okay,
put it
there's a
that way.
parking lot, his building is the last building at the end of the block. There's a parking lot adjacent to that with a barrier between that parking lot and Eastern Avenue.
Okay, but that's not his parking lot.
I didn't say it was, I said the parking lot.
The question is it, do you have any information that it is his parking lot?
I have no knowledge of it being his
All right,
property.
Okay. You spoke a few times about drug trafficking,
Mhm.
and you're attributing the drug traffickers that you said you've seen are people that are coming from his tavern?
Yes, sir.
What expertise do you have in determining whether somebody is actually selling drugs?
As I said, he could be selling Jolly Ranchers. I'm not an expert. There haven't been arrests made. If you require proof such as arrests and testimony therein, I can't provide that. I'm just stating my observation.
Okay, well, but you see, you're talking about a man's livelihood here. You're asking this board to take his livelihood
No, I'm
away.
not.
You're not?
I'm here testifying
You're not involved with this protest?
okay.
You're
What
not
other
part of
questions
this
do you
protest?
have for this?
I'm asking you, you're not protesting the renewal of this license?
I am.
Well then, again, you're asking this board to take his livelihood away from him. And I'm asking you for what expertise you would have
So-
in knowing that these folks that you see on the street, not in the bar, on the street, are coming from his tavern.
Commissioners, I cannot prove that there was drug dealing in relation to it, so let's just move on.
All right. Now, you said that you know for a fact that this person, his picture was submitted into evidence, and I really don't know, I mean, that you're saying that he's defecating, but you said you know for a fact that that gentleman came from the tavern.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you believe that Mr. Luna has an obligation to control the behavior of his clientele, if this was his clientele, after he leaves the tavern?
No. I don't believe it's his obligation, no.
And if he came from, well, all right, then.
Oh,
No further
and one
questions
other
in
thing
that
I'd like to
regard.
add, there was some question, the inspectors came out after some of the 311 complaints. The reason the evidence of human defecation was not there is because I cleaned it up,
On which occasion?
all of them.
No, which occasion specifically?
Okay, there were 6 occasions total. There were 2 occasions spoken of that had 311 calls in which an inspector went out and said they found no evidence. in all 6 occasions, including those 2, I clean it up immediately. I don't like open feces on my property.
Okay, but again, you're not, in this instance, you're certain that the guy came from my client's tavern, is that correct?
Yes, in all those instances, yeah. Those cameras run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
But, and you were able to check that these folks came from the tavern and walked around the corner and
Okay.
used your...
So as I said, the camera points directly at his door. There's only one door in and out.
I understand
Okay.
that. I'm asking you if you have specific evidence that these are people that came out of the tavern and walked around the corner.
Yes.
In the corner.
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Where is it?
It's right there.
No, this is a picture of a man.
So you need the picture of this man coming out the
Yes.
bar?
That would
Okay.
substantiate it, I would think.
Okay, I can provide that.
Are you willing to work with Mr. Luna on any problems? Like you said, the noise has been reduced considerably since
Considerably.
December. Okay, so that apparently has been resolved. Is that an accurate statement?
To say that it's been 100% resolved to my satisfaction, no, I wouldn't say that. To say that he's made sincere efforts, I would say that, yes. And as far as me being willing to work with him, I want to answer that other question. I consider Mr. Luna to be a friend of mine. I speak with him regularly. I like him very much. Other than the fact that he's the owner of the property and all of the responsibilities entailed therein, or that he's the owner of the business, rather, I don't consider Mr. Luna personally responsible or overtly negligent
Okay.
in most of these cases.
No further questions, then.
The commissioners have questions for the witness?
No.
Okay. Did you want to present evidence?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I prepared a petition in support of the continued operation of the tavern business located 500 South Lehigh and known as Castelluna Sports Bar, Inc. Would you like me to read the petition? It has 70 names on it.
You can submit it if you like. We'll
Okay,
consider
well,
it.
here's the original.
I mean, is there something unusual about the
No,
petition?
it's just that there was a letter presented to the board from the Community Association, was signed by maybe 10 or 12 people. This is a petition in support of the continued operation of this business, signed by 70 people. And I have extra copies for the commissioners if they'd like.
Okay, thanks. They'll be received.
As an exhibit, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have just a few questions for Mr. Luna.
Go ahead.
Mr. Luna, it's been alleged on a couple occasions by both the witnesses that were just who just testified that you're basically not there at the tavern. Could you address that? Are you? Is there any occasion when you're not at the tavern?
Ellos dicen que ellos están reclamando que usted no está en el negocio, que usted puede testificar sobre eso.
Sí, yo siempre no estoy a veces, bueno, tengo mi operación, yo llego a las 9, 8:30,
I'm not always there because of my health condition. I usually get there around 8 or 9,
pero siempre estoy ahí.
but I'm always there.
Después del 25 de diciembre,
Since after Christmas,
yo le pregunté a mis clientes, porque ellos me mandaron un texto, estaba la música subida, yo desde ese día boté el DJ y no más DJ.
I asked my clients because of the noise issues, and I fired the DJ.
Y lo que ellos me dicen, yo no soy responsable. También afuera viven 3 homeless, 3 personas
Of
que
the
no tienen dónde vivir.
allegations made by the protester, he said he's not responsible, and he believes there's 3 homeless that live around the block.
Y yo trato de mantener todo lo más limpio que yo puedo. Yo recojo mi troca, la lleno casi interdiario de todo lo que la gente tira, pero no que yo tiro.
I try to keep the place clean, and I use my own truck and clean up around my business of not my trash, but people's trash.
Y casi el 90% de clientes que van donde mí son gente adultos y que son del mismo bloque mío.
And about 90% of my clientele, they adults, and they come from the surrounding blocks.
Y siempre yo trato de hacer lo mejor. Yo soy muy amigo de ella como amigo de él.
And I try my best, and I'm their friends.
Cuando ella compró la casa, yo le cortaba la grama, yo le limpio el frente, yo le hago de todo lo que ellos me piden.
When she bought the house,
Para
I used to cut her grass.
Atrás yo trato de que todo quede bien y siempre le digo que lo que sea que me digan a mí.
I try to keep everything under control in the alley, and if there's any issue, they're welcome to reach out to me.
A veces el señor me llama que está la música un poquito alta y yo de una vez la bajo y lo llamo para atrás. Dice, yes, now it's okay.
Sometimes the gentleman call me to tell me the music is loud, and I immediately turn the volume down.
Pero yo le pido mil disculpas tanto a ella como a él y le prometo y le juro que todo voy a tratar de estar lo más tiempo que sea posible en mi negocio para que todo salga bien y que todos nos ayudemos, por favor.
I'm very sorry for this, and I will try my best to keep everything under control and to keep my business moving forward.
And you're there every day, is that
Yes.
correct?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Could I ask, do you have any other business?
¿Tiene
No.
otro negocio?
Eso es lo único que tengo para mi familia, mi mamá, yo puedo mantener, pues no puedo trabajar en otras cosas, sino ese es un poquito ahí.
That's the only business I have to support my family and myself. Because of my health condition, I can't do anything more.
Okay. Nothing further.
Did you want to be heard at all?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Did you have some questions?
Go ahead.
I do.
Oh.
For Mr. Luna, could you please describe the condition of the bathrooms inside Casa Luna?
¿Puede describir las condiciones de los baños de su negocio?
Pues, mis vasos están bien limpios, siempre están
My
limpios.
bathrooms are very clean. They're always clean.
Pues,
How many are there?
¿Cuántos baños tiene?
2.
2.
Male, female?
Hombres y mujeres?
Sí,
Yes.
Have they ever been not usable?
Si alguna vez esos baños han estado en condiciones que no se pueden usar.
no.
No.
Okay. Does your license allow for live entertainment?
Si su licencia le permite tener live entertainment.
No,
No.
Okay. Do you understand that disc jockeys are in fact considered live entertainment?
Que si usted sabe que un DJ jockey es considerado live entertainment.
no lo sabía.
I didn't know.
If I may speak to that. It's my understanding that DJs are permitted as long as they don't speak into a microphone. That would be considered live entertainment. A person playing the records is as a DJ might, is permitted.
So there was testimony, and I'm not sure who said it, but there was some belief that in addition to disc jockey, you're using cell phone attached to speakers, amplifiers. Is that true or not true?
Que si las bocinas son amplificadas, que si es verdad o no es verdad.
Sí, tengo a veces, porque no tengo, a veces la gente no le pone al jukebox, entonces yo pongo el teléfono mío a poner y suena la bocina.
Yes, I have speakers, and not always the jukebox is playing, and I use my phone play music through the speakers.
Okay, and where are the speakers?
En la barra,
In the bar.
en la parte de atrás.
In the back of the bar.
In the back of the bar. Is the location, is it air conditioned?
Que si tiene aire acondicionado.
No.
No tiene aire
No,
acondicionado.
Sí
sir.
tiene aire acondicionado, pero de ventana.
Window units?
Yes.
Okay. There was testimony that some of the problem with the noise, which I also understand it's better now, but was that the doors would be open and the music would be amplified.
La
Is
puerta sigue abierta.
that a situation that you're committed to not continuing?
Que si es algo que usted puede hacer, cerrar la puerta.
Sí.
Yes.
Yo abro la puerta cuando llego en la tarde a las 6, a las 5 o las 6 por un rato para que en lo que limpio y todo, pero yo siempre la tengo cerrada.
I open the door when I get there around 6 for a few hours just to keep the place fresh, but I close them up at night.
Hace una o 2 semanas llegó un inspector del Licoboa
About 2 weeks, an inspector from the liquor board came
que lo
by
llamaron, que la puerta estaba abierta y que la
for
música
an
estaba
open
muy
door
subida
complaint and loud
Y-
music,
y no había nada.
and the inspector didn't find anything.
Porque el business ahora está que a veces a 2 o 3 personas, bueno, he leído, los inspectores van y no ven nadie, entonces no sé por qué, dicen ellos por qué han llamado.
Usually the business is there, there's 1 or 2 customers. He's referring to me that I've been there in the past, and I didn't find any problems.
Okay. Now, the testimony of public defecation
They said
or
testimony, so-
public toileting to cover everything, I guess, is very disturbing.
Yes, sir.
And
Okay.
I believe and find most credible the testimony that your neighbor, your next door neighbor, viewed someone leaving your establishment, walking around to the back, to the alley, and then using his parking pad for that use. I don't understand why anyone would do that unless they were so inebriated that they forgot to use the bathroom before they left. So I would like to just hear from you, what is your awareness of the circumstances that might lead to this, and do you feel that you have anything in your power or control that could stop it?
Ella quiere saber cuáles son las circunstancias que usted piensa que estas personas están saliendo afuera usando el baño, y si usted piensa que si hay algo en su poder que usted puede hacer para prevenir que estas personas hagan popó afuera.
Yo, si yo pudiera, yo hago de todo, pero yo no puedo responder porque está afuera. Ahora,
Pero,
esa es la última calle y mucha gente van, quizás por eso se esconden. Ahí viven, afuera viven realmente 3 homeless que no tienen donde vivir y ellos viven debajo del puente.
tiene que repetir otra vez.
A ver,
Y por parte.
yo quisiera hacer todo lo que yo pueda y todo lo más posible porque a mí me encanta la limpieza.
I want to do everything that is possible because I like cleaning.
Pero no puedo yo serme responsable a la calle.
I can't be responsible for what's outside.
Y también ahí viven 3 personas que son homeless, no tienen donde vivir.
And there's 3 homeless persons that live around there.
A veces vienen 4, 5, 6, 7 gente a visitarlo debajo del puente a ellos ahí.
And sometimes people come over about 4 or 5 to visit them.
Y yo no puedo hacer nada con eso.
And I can't do anything about that.
Yo he llamado a la ciudad y le
I
he
have
dicho,
called the city
porque a veces yo estaba ahí, ellos tenían, ahora no la tienen, pero antes tenían casita y todo,
to complain about it before. They used to have housing, but not anymore.
pero nadie ha hecho nada.
Nobody does anything for them.
The issue, though, is not a homeless person who just happens to stray into the backyard of 502 South Lehigh Street. The issue is people actually leaving your establishment and then walking around to the back and using that parking pad. And the fact that it's happened 6 times, and each time the property resident has cleaned it, is really disturbing. But you feel you have no responsibility for that?
¿Usted siente que tiene responsabilidad sobre eso?
Sí, no, yo no tengo responsabilidad.
No, I'm not responsible.
Mi amigo me dijo, él me dijo
My
a mí
friend
que de
said,
eso, y yo le dije a él, ok, yo no sé quién es, pero si tú me enseñas la cámara, yo sé quién es, yo le pego su reclamo.
Okay. The only other area is the allegations of drug dealing. Are you aware of any issues that are happening within your business that are spilling out into the street? If you were aware, what would you do about that?
si usted supiera que hay problemas de droga, que usted hiciera.
Pues yo trataría de solucionarlo
I would try to fix it
y eliminar lo más que pueda.
and eliminate it all.
And how would you do that?
Como lo hiciera.
Pues tratando de hablar con la gente,
Trying to
corregirlo,
talk to people, get them straight.
llamando a la autoridad.
I'll call the authorities.
Pero yo no puedo controlar todo en la calle. porque
Where I
yo-
can't control everything on the street.
Okay, well, those are all the questions that I have, Mr. Luna.
Thank you.
Just a few questions. Mr. Luna, you recognize as these issues continue with the community, I assume you recognize or understand that the value of your business remains stagnant.
Dice que los problemas continúan afectando a la comunidad. Que you repeat that one time, please.
My point is that you had mentioned that you owe more on the business than what it's worth. And when, you want me to slow down? My point is as you continue to have community issues,
Si usted sigue teniendo problemas en las comunidades,
it impacts your business.
eso va a impactar su negocio negativamente.
All right. Yo,
It's really a yes or no.
Okay,
Do you
no.
understand that?
¿Se entiende eso?
sí, yo lo entiendo.
Yes, I do.
Pero yo que yo sepa no tengo problema con nadie de la comunidad.
As far as I know, I don't have any problems with anybody in the community.
But that's not, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is the community has issues with you.
La comunidad tiene
So-
problemas con usted, no usted con la comunidad.
Here's where I'm headed.
Pero,
It seems to me, based on the testimony provided, that
¿Qué piensa según
when you are present,
cuando usted está en el negocio?
issues not always, tend to get addressed.
Cuando está en el negocio, los problemas no pasan.
Would you be willing to immediately meet with the Greektown Community Association to address these
Tratando de
issues?
tener una reunión con la comunidad.
pues, no, pero la voy a tratar de hacer lo más pronto posible.
I will try to do that as soon as possible.
Okay, I don't want try, I'm asking will you?
Él no quiere que usted trate, que si usted lo va a hacer.
Lo voy a hacer.
I will do
Yes,
it.
sir.
Okay, and would you be open to the idea of entering into a memorandum of understanding with the community to address these issues?
Si usted quiere entrar en un acuerdo con la comunidad con referente a esos problemas.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. And then lastly, I do think, and I encourage you to look into the live entertainment issue.
Y que él piensa que usted debe de hacer algo sobre el problema de esa gente.
It is my understanding, I could be wrong, it is my understanding that you need permission,
Dice que es su entendimiento que usted necesita permiso, pero no está seguro.
and if I am correct,
Y si él-
this will be an ongoing issue with respect to your neighbors.
Eso va a ser un problema que va a ser.
Nothing more.
Anything further?
No, no.
Harvey, anything further?
Just in sum, Mr. Luna, maybe you didn't testify, but do you have a DJ presently?
Pero usted tiene un DJ ahora mismo?
No.
I don't have a DJ.
Después del 25 de diciembre, no más.
After
No
December
más DJ.
25th, I stopped the DJ. No more.
And that pretty much coincides with what was testified to by Mr. Wilson, that the music, the noise has subsided since
So
then.
there is no live entertainment currently.
No.
Así que ahora mismo, si hay algún live entertainment
No.
ahora mismo,
So noise should not be an issue.
que no, ya no deben de haber problemas de bulla.
No.
No.
I'm not saying that, I'm not speaking for Mr. Wilson, who did say that the noise subsided tremendously since, well, didn't use the word tremendously, but
Significantly.
significantly.
But not
Since-
100% satisfaction.
100%, that's right. And my client has also testified he's willing to work with him. And I would like to point out that this next-door neighbor is really the only one who came to testify today, and I think that that's significant. The board should consider that. And I think you should also consider the petition that Mr. Luna had signed. I prepared the wording on it, but he had it signed, I gave it to him Monday, and he came with 70 names on it.
Yeah.
And I think that the board should consider that as well. Also, I mean, with respect to Mr. Luna's operation of this business, he has been here before. He was here as recently as November, and that was for being past 2 a.m. I think it was 2:06 or something like that. And of course, that's a violation of his license. But you haven't had drug trafficking inside this tavern. You haven't had fights inside this tavern. As a matter of fact, I didn't see the other 14, but the 10 311 calls that were made all showed that either there was no evidence of the complaint, or I want to get the wording correctly. No, staff could not substantiate allegations. There was a complaint in January, complaint alleged fight outside, and it says alternation. I think they mean alterations to the tavern. And it says no fight observed, no alterations changing the distribution space or sale of alcohol were in evidence. The floor plan was unchanged. And now I didn't see the other 14, but I did speak with the chief inspector before this hearing, and he said that I think maybe one one complaint was substantiated, or maybe one or two. But the point is that this is a good. I've known Mr. Luna since he's been in this tavern, and I find him to be a very friendly person who is very helpful to the people that he knows. And he is, when he tells you he's willing to work with this gentleman who lives next door, he is, and he will. And when he says that he will meet with this Greek community, Greek town community, excuse me, he will. As a matter of fact, there was a prior chairman of this community association. I believe his name is Filippo, was it?
But he's not working no more.
Well, see, he had a good relationship with him, and he
But he's not working no more.
yeah, okay. So he's not present in this community association. So my client lost touch with them. He doesn't really know any of them any longer. But he did have a good relationship with Mr. Filippo.
Anything further?
Nothing further, except that I would beg this commission to please renew this license for my client.
Okay, thank you all. It's time for us to consider this on the merits. So, Mr. Luna, I'm just speaking for myself, okay?
Okay.
The other commissioners will have to address the issue. Based on what I've heard today, you're a nice gentleman. You are well-liked. Even your next-door neighbors who have problems with you say that you're a good guy. You've testified that you have health problems, and maybe that's affecting somewhat the way that you've been able to manage your establishment. Because there are people here, now I recognize they're directly next door, and choosing to buy a place directly next to a bar, you have to have your eyes open a little bit. So I take that into consideration. But the Greater Greektown Neighborhood Alliance has filed a protest, or at least a letter in support of the protest as well, indicating ongoing problems with your establishment. And the testimony that was provided by Ms. Bozeski, I'm sorry if I said correctly, Bozoski, and Mr. Wilson, is troubling because while they have, maybe some people would say, I don't know, a bit of a slant on your bar because they're so close to it, it suggests to me an establishment that's not well managed. And maybe it was at one point, maybe your health's causing a problem now, but there are reasonable inferences to draw when you see people out on the streets with cars parked and hand-to-hand transactions taking place on a regular basis, when you have people using facilities in and around your bar as public bathrooms, when you have people smashing windows and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and when every time the bar closes, the immediate neighbors are kept up. This is not a well-managed establishment at the moment. And that's a problem for them, and it will be an ongoing problem if you continue for you and for the community. Now, Commissioner Greenfield, am I going too fast? Am I going too fast for you? I'll try to slow down. I'm sorry. I forget sometimes that you're translating.
Thank you.
But Commissioner Greenfield has suggested that you meet with the Community Association and enter into a memorandum of understanding. And what he means is not that you sit down with them and show that you have good intentions, because that's not going to do it. What he's talking about is having a written agreement that imposes restrictions on the way that you manage your bar, so that it is it's in compliance with our regulations, and it makes you a friendly neighbor to your neighbors. And those are real restrictions. They'd be imposed on your license if you agree to them. And if you violate those, we would be in a position to suspend or take your license away from you. And frankly, without something like that, I'm not all that comfortable with the way that this operation is going at the present time. So for me, I understand you have a lot of your personal your financial commitment to this, your investment in it. It's your family business and your way of supporting your family, and I would really hesitate to deprive you of that, because I understand that. So I think there's a difference between people who live in the community and the people who are patrons of your bar. The perspective, it's one thing to say, I like Mr. Luna's bar because it's a great place to go and meet my friends and have a drink. It's a very different thing to say, I like Mr. Luna's bar because I live next door to it. But both are entitled to their perspectives, and we take them with the weight that they're entitled to. So here's where I come down. I would reluctantly vote to renew your license, but with the understanding that within the next 30 days, you're going to try to hammer out a memorandum of understanding with the Community Association so that you can address these very real issues that have been raised before us today in a way that works for everybody. Okay, thank you.
So I looked at the petition in support of the of Casa Luna, and I think I counted maybe 15 or 16 out of the 65 that are in the same zip code or appear to be most proximate to Casa Luna, and I appreciate that level of support, and it certainly gives some texture to the feeling that there are people that patronize you that don't live there. I have to say, anyone who's been watching these hearings since I've been a commissioner knows that I have several pet peeves, and my kids say I've got too many of them. But public use, public toileting of other person's private property is it's a horrible thing. And this gentleman testified that he actually observed someone leaving your place and then walking around and using his backyard for that purpose. And I actually believe that if you are able to, and you have been pretty successful in addressing the noise complaint, you can address this complaint as well. There's something that you need to do within the management of your business. And yeah, I do believe that you're responsible for that. If people are consuming so much that they're either forgetting to use the bathroom before they leave, or they think that they don't need to, or their cognition is suppressed, that's another problem. And that's something that we have jurisdiction over as well, is over-serving. So something's happening there. I know that you can fix it. I know that you are the person to fix it, because the testimony has been that when they talk to you directly, things change. You indicated earlier your health challenges. It was clear that you're experiencing some stress because of this bar. Your neighbors most proximate to you certainly are experiencing stress. I believe that there are things that you can do. I agree with the chair that there are reasonable inferences that can be made with respect to the hand-to-hand transactions with people coming out of the bar, hand-to-hand transactions, the driver moves away. So something's happening there. And if you can't get a handle on it, that is exactly the kind of thing that the city's task forces are equipped and designed to do. And if you can't get a handle on it, then I think that's something that we would ask be done. So again, I guess I come down also reluctantly. I think that we ask people to tolerate a lot in order to live in this city, and the way that you're running your business is something that I frankly feel we shouldn't have to ask people to tolerate, but I am asking you to fix it. You've been here previously, both during my first term on this board and my second term, and would love to see you over the bar having a drink, but don't like seeing you in here. So the idea of the memorandum of understanding, which you are volunteering to begin that process and engage in, we're not ordering you to do it, but you're volunteering to do that, is a step in the right direction. So with all of that, I will join the chair in voting to renew the license. But it is just that close, that close. Muy poquito. There's just so little between getting it and not.
Thank you.
And I will join my colleagues with the understanding, again, or the encouragement, strong encouragement, that you meet with this community as soon as possible and work in good faith on a memorandum of understanding. In addition, that you're as present as you can possibly be at this establishment, and if you're not, that the community knows who is in charge and can address these issues. I also encourage you to address security when it comes to the alleged drug dealing, the defecation. And just to put it in perspective, one of the issues that I am most troubled with is that we have 24 calls, and I do think to some degree where there's smoke, there's fire. Those 24 calls results in a tremendous amount of city resources, not just by the Liquor Commission, but by the police department and other agencies, and that is not something I take lightly. That's significant. And so for those reasons, I reluctantly renew, with the understanding and your testimony, Mr. Luna, that you will, in fact, meet with the community as soon as possible and really in good faith reach an understanding.
So the board has voted to renew your license, sir, but I just want to caution you that we've all said we've done it reluctantly. This is not a well-managed bar. Your good intentions are not going to cure it. You're going to have to get some assistance to manage this properly. You might need more security. You're going to need more help in assisting with lots of the activities outside the bar. Those are your responsibility if they're coming out of your bar. And if you come back here we will have to do something severe. So address these issues and understand that, okay?
So can we just a word of thanks for Ms. Bizaski and Mr. Wilson for being willing to come forward and testify about your experiences. I think we hear you loud and clear, and we're voting to renew the license, but that doesn't mean that your objections to any activity should stop. If there are activities that you experience that are inappropriate, please continue to call, because we're here, and
Okay.
we'll bring them back.
Thank
It'd be
you
good
very
if you
much.
all could be involved in that process if he meets with the community association. Okay? Thank you. Thank everyone. That is our morning docket. We'll be back
I
at
appreciate
around
too much.
1:30.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we have to call
Please, thank you.
exhibits.
Yes, I'm
We need
sorry.
to call exhibits?
Thank you.
I call exhibits at this time. Protestants Exhibit 1, photos dated February 18, 2017. Protestant Exhibit
this
2,
might be-
311 service request log. Licensee Exhibit 1, petition of support. Thank you.
Okay, we're recessed till 1:30.
Yes.
Excuse me, there's some papers here. I don't think these are for us. Oh, okay.
So, meeting with the community, is that a condition on the decision or no?
No.
Should we mention it? No.
We should mention that we strongly encourage it. We can't make it a condition.
Okay. So,
Then I gotta talk.
Right?
I mean, for the moment,
Well, they pay.
this moment. For this moment, I think there's a song.
paid you good, huh?
Yeah, they do. They do, they do.
Yeah.
Don't I need to have something before me? Whose bond is this right here?
That's the chair?
This one. I don't need to make no notes. This the right one here?
Did you not get a binder?
Yeah, I have a binder, but they didn't know I was coming. No.
Yeah, that's the right one.
I can't see the people. No, that's okay.
Put it down like he got his.
Oh, you can put it down. You do it. I'll let you do it. Okay, like that. Oh. I think you've done.
I did not get that.
That didn't matter.
Wow. No, I hope I don't. Oh, don't. Don't accept it, no. Let me guide you. You go there, you're on your own. Me? What would I say? I think I'll just go into it. Do I have the right? Is it me?
What you need? You got it?
It's very important.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't want to be Albert Matriciani.
Now we're good. Now we're good.
Yeah,
I actually
Okay.
don't mind, wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind it either.
Good afternoon. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's protest of renewal docket. Today is Thursday, April 27th, 2017. When your case is called, please step up to the microphone and state your name into the microphone clearly. If you have an electronic device, cell phone, please silence that cell phone or put it on vibrate. Calling the first case of the afternoon docket, Uzo Nuoso and Obayifule Uwandineke. I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly. Uzo LLC, trading as the Goodfellas Lounge, 4919 Bel Air Road. This is a protest of renewal of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license.
Okay, would everyone who has an interest in this matter come forward?
Stand up and get sworn in.
Anyone who's planning to testify, if you could come forward and we'll have you sworn in.
Just tell him to stand up and get him sworn in. Jesus, how hard is it to tell you?
Everybody raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, we are here. Good afternoon, everyone. You can be seated. My name is Dana Moore, and I'm acting as chair in the absence of our actual chair, Albert Matriciani, joined with Commissioner Aaron Greenfield and Commissioner Harvey Jones. So we have before us a petition protesting the renewal of Uzo LLC, which is trading as Goodfellas, located at 4919 Bel Air Road. I noticed that there were a large number of people that stood up and said that they wanted to present testimony. As we go forward, I'd like to hear what the complaint is, what the issues are with respect to renewal. But as we go forward, I would just ask that you listen to what the person before you or the persons before you have said, and that we try not to repeat testimony. Okay? So if somebody has already said the point that you want to make, no need to remake it. Okay? But let's get started.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadansky, 19 East Fayette Street, representing the licensee. We had filed a motion to dismiss. That's part of your file. Principally, what I would indicate in the motion to dismiss, I set out the salient sections of the code and of your board's rule with regard to the lack of specificity in the petition. Certainly, general rules regarding due process require, who, where, what, when something happened, and it's not in that petition at all. And the note that the petition itself is not dated, so there's no indicating when the people signed the petition. I think that's important because certainly would have to, the licensee would have to know when they were signed. The motion to dismiss pretty much speaks for itself. I'm not going to argue immediate vicinity because I think that's a work in progress with regard to at least this board from the last proceedings that you had.
Right, and that's what I was going to suggest is if you would like to, what I'd like to do is hold the motion in abeyance, hear the testimony, hear what it is that people have to say, and then come back and revisit your motion. Is that something that you would be willing to do?
That's fine. That you have do I have to resubmit it, or do you have it?
Nope. We've been provided with a copy of your motion to dismiss, and if you're willing to allow us to defer ruling, then we can proceed. Okay? All right. So we have the motion. We have the protest of renewal. I believe it was submitted primarily by the Valley Park Community Association, and you're here to testify about the concerns. So could you just state your name and the concerns?
I'm Kim Seelover. I'm the president of the Valley Park Community Association. I represent our community, and we are protesting the renewal on the grounds of loud music, loud patrons. The trash situation has gotten better, but that is an issue. Illegal parking and the fact that our the MOU is supposed to provide, the Goodfellas is supposed to provide 10 to 15 parking spaces designated for their patrons, and that has not been done either.
Okay. Can you give us some specifics regarding the music and what the concerns are with the music?
Yes, ma'am. The community, I receive phone calls and complaints from the community almost on a daily basis. The furthest neighbor is, or who can hear it, is 3 houses down and a side street crosses between his house. He constantly is 311ing the liquor board for the loud music. A man who lives across the street from him is even further down, and we can hear the music in our houses in the middle of the winter with the windows shut, the doors shut, the TV on. It's just a constant boom, boom, boom.
Do you know whether anyone has tried to talk to the owner and have that issue resolved in any way?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Uzo and I have both spoken in person, on the phone, and we also did a mediation with Mr. Hilliard from Harbell.
And how did that go?
There were some things written up that said would be done, and Mr. Uzo has always been very pleasant to deal with. The only problem is the issues still have not been resolved.
Okay, and as you stand here today, are the noise issues that still occurring?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you're still getting complaints. All right, you also mentioned loud patrons. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When the patrons exit the bar at night, anywhere between 1:45 and later, They're outside, they're very loud, they're screaming sometimes. They get in their cars, they turn the music up full blast in their cars. They blow their horns as they're leaving the establishment, and they park on, it's a one-way street, and they drive the wrong way on a one-way street when they exit.
And is this something that was also, that you attempted to address in the MOU or the mediation?
And the MOU was about the parking spots. At the time, we were not having an issue with the cars driving the wrong way on the street.
All right, so let's talk about the parking. What was the agreement?
The agreement was to have 10 to 15 parking spots, not located on Valley View Avenue. Well, they're supposed to be on licensee such parking agreement with the parties along Bel Air Road for parking for approximately 10 to 15 parking spots, and direct their patrons to be good neighbors and not park vehicles along Valley View Avenue, and will post signs, a version which is here within attached. And yes, there is a small sign on the side of the building asking people not to park on Valley View, but they still do. And the address of the location that Mr. Uzo has told me is 4917 Bel Air Road, but there is no access to that property unless you are on Valley View Avenue. And it's basically a dirt lot with a hill on the side.
All right. And are you saying, just for clarity, the sign directs people to park on that dirt lot?
No, there is no sign. There is no signage at all to direct people where to park at. There is just a cardboard sign on the side of the bar saying, please be a good neighbor and not park on Valley View.
Okay, so people wouldn't see that until after they parked, right?
And if it's dark, I don't know if they would see it anyway.
See it anyway. All right, now, you said that there was some agreement that parking would be provided. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, ma'am. It's D, subsection D on our license obligation.
I don't know if that's part of the record yet.
Okay, so you mentioned that there was an MOU, a memorandum of understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
And was that actually negotiated and agreed to?
That was negotiated and agreed to by our lawyer at the time.
Okay, and did Mr. Nwosu agree to the terms of the
Yes.
MOU? All right. And what was it that he agreed to with respect to the MOU and parking?
To provide 10 to 15 parking spots on Bel Air Road.
And where, oh, okay.
Just looking.
So that's, okay, Part D.
Yes.
Okay. So he actually agreed to that.
Yes, ma'am.
And has that been done?
No.
Okay. All right. Do you know, what are the hours of the bar? Do you know?
I'm not sure what time they open, but they are to close at 2 a.m.
Okay, are there any other issues that you would like us to hear?
Other than, like I said, the loud patrons, the music, the trash, we do have, the trash situation was worse at the beginning. Mr. Uzo has gotten that somewhat, pretty much under control. We do have a problem though also with the patrons when they park on Valley View. They will dump their trash out of their vehicles in the street, and a lot of them when they are leaving are still have their beverages, and they throw bottles in our yards. They throw their cups in the middle of the street when they're getting in their vehicles.
Okay, what kind of bottles are they throwing in your yard?
Beer bottles.
Beer bottles. So are you saying that they're exiting the property with bottles of beer and then they end up on your yards? What are the other issues with respect to the trash?
There had been problems with the dumpster always overflowing. Mr. Uzo must be doing something with placing the trash elsewhere because, well, it's not as bad as it used to be. It will start to overflow, but not to the point where there's 10 or so bags piled on top of the dumpster.
Okay, so the trash issue you feel is better.
Yes.
But is there still an issue with people that you believe are patrons leaving the beer bottles on your yard?
Yeah, and cleaning out their cars and just leaving it in the street.
And how do you know that they're patrons of Goodfellas?
I've seen them exit and come to their cars because they park in front of our homes.
Okay. Okay. Is anything else that you'd like to share today?
No, ma'am.
No? Cross-examination?
Regarding to the MOU, he does have parking on Bel Air Road, correct?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
The parking lot is not doesn't have a Blair Road address?
Yes, this is what I said. It's located on Bella Road, but there's no access to it except for Valley View Avenue.
But it says it says arrangement with parties along Blair Road for parking, correct?
It does. It also says that they should be designated and marked that they are to park there.
It says actually in the agreement, for approximately 10 to 15 parking spots. Do you feel there are 10 to 15 spots on that lot?
No, I don't.
And you direct their patrons to be good neighbors, not to park along Valley View Road. We'll post signs. Well, they did do that, is that correct?
Yes, one sign was posted.
Is this the copy of the sign?
Yes.
All right, let's submit this. Make that. I've got extra copies just in case.
Okay.
And to your knowledge, he actually has security, is that correct?
He told us he did, yes.
Did you never talk to his security people, ever saw him?
I did a few times after we had our community agreement with Mr. Hilliard, not since.
Okay, and then the place has lights, it's lit up on the outside?
Yes.
And you mentioned regarding the trash, he has, how many trash containers does he have outside? He's got several, is that correct?
He has a dumpster,
One or more than one?
one dumpster,
Okay, and you know how many days a week they come to?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay, and you've emailed Mr. Uzo on numerous occasions, is that correct?
Correct.
In fact, one occasion you emailed him, you needed some help. You had to look at his videotape,
Yes.
all right? And he gave you the videotape so you could ascertain there was a problem you had with someone, and he tried to help you out on it. Is that correct?
No, he did not give it to me. We looked at it together.
Oh, together you looked at it, but he did provide it so you could look at it. All
Absolutely.
right, it was his. And then along with that, you mentioned that you had called the liquor board, made 311 complaints.
I have, as well as the other residents in the community.
So they would be listed with the liquor board, correct?
Yes.
All right. Would you find it hard to believe that on the ones that are listed with the liquor board, there's only one complaint that mentioned that there was alleged loud music and it was not observed, and the system, one time they came and they asked them to turn it down. There was a complaint about being open after hours. They came, the liquor board sat there and they were not open. You're saying all these complaints that the liquor board couldn't substantiate were made by your group?
They were made, but as you know, the liquor board doesn't come out normally when they're operating the business.
Well, how do you know when they come out? If you made the complaint, did they come to you?
Because I've dealt with Mr. Jones before.
With Mr. Jones who?
Mr. Shelton Jones from the liquor board.
Well, he hasn't been here for like 2 years.
I know, but
Submit copies of the 311 complaints indicating those were unsubstantiated. I also have
Yeah.
copies of the liquor board's actual inspections when they came out to those. I would submit. Ouch. They go along with some of the 311 complaints. They have a little more written on
Let
them.
me get these marked and then, is this the same or is this a copy?
It's a copy, one
Okay.
you can look at while. Now, on your petition that you have there, how many of those people are here today with you today?
Mr. Casantes,
Just one?
yes.
Okay, and when you mentioned on your, who did the petition? Did you do it?
Yes.
Is there any reason why it wasn't dated?
We never dated one in the past, but if you would like, Mr. Kadinsky, I can show you proof of when the petition was begun to be signed.
That's not my question. My question is, it's not dated.
No, it's never been dated before.
Well, that's, the one you submitted wasn't dated, correct?
None of them have ever been.
All right. And when you want to get together with Mr. Uzo, he made himself available, is that correct?
Yes, we did. We both made ourselves available.
And you were not the original contact person.
No,
There was another individual.
Mrs. Dorsey.
Okay. And in fact, Mr. Uzo arranged to have several meetings at his establishment, is that correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
I was there one time, and you were there, and so was the attorney. You weren't there?
Oh, that was before he owned the bar, yes. That was
When
when
he was
Mr.
going-
Nager owned it.
When he was applying to go ahead and get it, is that correct?
Yes, we did not meet with him at that time, though.
But as a result, after that, you entered into disagreement with him, is that correct?
It is.
All right, and along with that, Mr. Uzo doesn't own the building, is that correct?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Commissioners? Either one of you want to?
Yeah, so I'm trying to, a couple things, as the chairwoman mentioned. So there's trash, loud noise, parking. So those are the sum and substance of your concerns, is that correct? Okay, and they're serious concerns. I see attached to the agreement a number of emails between you and the owner, which tells me a few things. One is that he's responsive, but may not always be the answer that you're looking for. But if we could just, let me kind of peel some of this away for my own understanding. The parking issue, it's in the MOU, which was dated sometime in April 2015, although we don't have attached the signatures and the rest. We only have 2 pages of the MOU in front of us.
That was the only copy the lawyer had given me.
Understood, okay. So here, under 1D, you did mention that the parties would agree that, that the owner has to secure parking along Bel Air Road for 10 to 15, not to park along Valley View.
Correct.
So, explain to me why, I assume most of the residents live along Valley View, is that the issue?
Yes.
Okay. And so, if you could, again, describe the parking situation, so I'm clear on that.
When you're driving south on Bel Air Road, 4917 has a snowball stand, like at the top. And then Valley View Avenue is a right-hand turn if you're heading north. So when you turn, there's a fire hydrant there and a no parking zone. So it's a one-way street. So when you turn there, when people park, and particularly patrons of the bar will park in front of the fire hydrant and no parking zone, it's a very tight turn. And then you have vehicles who are exiting because you have no access to the 4917 Bel Air Road unless you are on Valley View Avenue. So the patrons come out of this dirt parking lot and they drive the wrong way on the one-way street. So when cars are coming down, it's a huge safety issue.
Sure. And you have raised this issue with the owner.
Yes.
And what has been his response, other than what I've noted in the emails that he has said that he can't control his patrons?
Correct. And my response was, if you have security, why are you not directing them to go down the street instead of going up the street?
That gets to my next question. Does he in fact have security?
I have not seen security in a very long time.
Okay. And when you say a very long time, can you help?
Mr. Hilliard and I had a mediation, and there was some security out there after that, but I have not seen security out there. I feel if all the problems continue to exist, where is security that's stopping these problems?
No, I think that's a fair point, and I agree. Okay, so the parking, I think I have a good sense of that. Loud noise. Are you referring to, is it music? Did I hear you correctly?
It's music and patrons.
Okay. Do you know if the owner has a live entertainment, permission to do live entertainment?
Does not have permission to do live entertainment.
Okay. Okay, we can explore that in a bit more. And then trash. Are you aware if the owner has any of his staff or himself going through the alleys, going through and cleaning up on a regular, frequent basis?
There is someone who comes out, a lady, I believe, who will sweep on the front and the side fairly regularly.
Okay, and that, in your opinion, isn't enough, or are there situations, again, based on the emails, I see that you note that there are times when it's overflowing.
Yes,
Is that a consistent?
I submitted pictures. I don't know if you have them in your,
I think, yeah, you know what? I do. I'm sorry.
I think we do.
But you're referring to emails that I don't even know what they are, I haven't seen them, and they were provided to the licensee.
Fair enough. That's fair. But if I could, attach to the MOU, Mr. Kudinski, or some emails.
But they're not part of the MOU.
They're separate.
After, oh, okay.
They are separate from the MOU. They're attached by staple to the MOU, and I will acknowledge that some of those emails are outside of the one-year window that we're looking at, and those I have not read. So, and again,
And just to be fair, I have some emails also we'll submit, but I'll.
and in fairness to the owner, he does seem responsive. Again, it doesn't always seem to be the answer, and that's why you're in front of us, which I recognize fully. Okay. I think that's all I have right now, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Jones?
Okay, my concern, I'm looking at the pictures, provided two pictures. One looks like a piece of plastic at the base of a stairwell, well near the door going into the basement. And the other looks like a overflowing dumpster with bags and maybe a few pieces of trash around it.
The first picture, sir, is actually the entrance to the kitchen. It's filled with water and trash.
Did you have anything showing trash throughout the front and the gutter in the streetway? Anything of that nature?
No, I didn't take pictures of it.
Okay, and also another question, the parking situation as you turn that corner, what might help us to make a better decision is that if you can take pictures showing that the cars are parked near the end where you can't make that turn, that this is an illegal place. Or the parking lot, which they say they provided with the 10 to 15 parking spaces, if you can give us a time that you take pictures of that lot, you can say like 11 o'clock, no cars, 12 o'clock, no cars. It kind of help us develop a better view of what you're looking at when you're looking at it. It would help me a lot to be able to determine, a better decision by me. I think the councilman has something here.
Follow up, Commissioner, those pictures that you submitted, what were the dates when those pictures were taken?
The stairwell is February, and the trash is January.
Of this year?
Yes.
And those are not mentioned date-wise in your petition, is that correct?
They were when I sent it to the liquor board.
What I'm saying is, in your petition, you didn't mention any dates of any of these incidents in your petition.
No.
I think the councilman had something he wanted to add.
All right. So we'll hear from Councilman Brandon Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Councilman Brandon Scott, and I'm simply going to focus in on Part E of the MOU, which is that the establishment will remain in compliance with all other city and state regulations, and start since Commissioner Jones was speaking about the trash, and actually go to housing SR 301 requests that we can submit, but also that show on several occasions that they were actually issued citations by the housing department for trash. So one is, it was created on May the 19th. The citation was issued on May the 20th for high grass and weeds.
Which year?
2016. 2016.
And could you tell me who the citation was issued to?
Why
So-
don't we let him testify and then?
It's not relevant. If it's
Well,
not
but
your
he's-
client,
So do you think he's talking about someone other than your client? I mean, he seemed to indicate that he was talking about violations of the law
So-
by your client.
Yeah, listen.
Yeah,
listen.
well, so-
My client, it's fine, because I'll
So-
want it recorded.
Okay, so let's hear what he has to say, and then you can challenge it if you feel like you still need to.
So the citation is issued to the owner of 4919 Bel Air Road for trash and debris in the stairwell to the kitchen filled with water and trash.
That's also on that May 20th citation?
Yeah, this is that. This is actually, this one is the April one. This is April the 5th
Of,
What year?
of 2016. And the next one is, it's actually, we have one for the dumpster from March the 8th of 2016, March the 9th of 2016, and then the last one is actually at the location, but it's not. The notice was issued because a car crashed in the facility, and the housing department felt like the owners of the building did not did not secure the facility. They just left it as is, and it was casually open for people walking and literally falling into the building.
And what was the date of that
And
citation?
that is actually November the 9th of 2016. And I have all of them here that you guys can look at.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Councilman, is that, I want to make sure I understand this distinction. Were those citations issued, and it's not clear to me whether the licensee owns the building? Do you know if he does?
I'm not sure. I don't believe the licensee owns the building.
So was that citation issued to the owner or to the licensee?
So how these things work is that only the licensee and the owner can tell us the answer to that question. So oftentimes what happens is a owner of the building will pass that citation off to his tenant. So if I'm renting a house and I don't cut the grass and my lease tells me I have to cut the grass, then when the owner gets that fine, he's going to pass it off to me. So only the licensee can answer that question. And I would also like to point out that on February the 25th of this year, the Baltimore City Health Department actually closed the facility. It had 5 critical violations and 43 good practice violations. They were visiting the location with the Social Club Task Force, and the location was closed for a total period of, they were closed on February the 25th, and they reopened not until the 2nd of March of 2017. And I also have a copy of their health report, which again is also violations of the MOU Section E.
I'm sorry, March date, what's the March date?
March the 25th.
I wrote down that they were closed February 25, 2017, and then reopened March 2.
March the 2nd, 2017. Yes, ma'am.
March 7th,
March 2nd, 2017.
They were prohibited from being open until they met all of the violations that the health department found. And they are very extensive. I can read them off to you if you like.
I'd like to hear
Some of them.
I'll object if it's as far as authenticity, chain of custody.
Well, I'm glad he said that. So there was a.
Let me hear his argument. You're basically objecting.
There's nobody here from the health department. It's not mentioned in the protest of renewal at all. And now all of a sudden all these things come up and thing. And also, it seems everybody glosses over who owns the building, who the citations were issued to. All we're doing is talking here. I mean, I think I should at least be able to wire deer on some of these issues before we get too far into it.
Well, he's not testifying as an expert witness with respect to the health code. He's just talking, as I understand it, as a councilman and as a regular citizen even, regarding the issuance of health code violations, which are a matter of public record, which anybody can pull up and see.
There was a smart young councilman.
Before I make a ruling, can I get some clarification as to whom these violations were issued?
Yep, the health department violations, which are a matter of public law, and anyone can pull them up on the website now, was actually to the establishment, Goodfellas Savoy African Food Restaurant / Catering, located at 4919 Bel Air Road.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to overrule the objection because these are directly related to the business, and I think that establishes relevancy. So, what are the violations?
So we're going to start with item number 2, which is the person in charge shall ensure that food served to the public is safe for human consumption, protect food from possible contamination by prohibiting the storage of raw meat, poultry, or seafood above cooked and ready-to-eat foods. So I can actually just go down the list if you want. Out of compliance items, food separated and protected from adulteration, spillage, and contamination, hands cleansed and properly washed, cooling time and temperature, cooling holding temperature, hot holding temperature. All of these things were found to be out of compliance by the health department. And there's an extensive list in the report that goes into detail about everyone.
Okay. And just to give further amplification as to the reason why I overruled the objection, which I understand your objection, Mr. Kadensky, were there not an MOU in which there was an agreement that reads, the establishment will remain in compliance with all applicable state and local laws and regulations? It might not be relevant, but there is an MOU. It is something that is part of the license. I mean, the licensee agreed to it, so I think that makes it relevant.
That was not an allegation that was made in the protest of renewal. It would have been very easy to say that they didn't comply with the MOU for these reasons, A, B, C, and D. When you give somebody a protest and renewal, you're telling me why you're protesting it. Why wouldn't you tell me all that and give it to me so that I could be prepared to come in here and to give you an answer for it? It's not stated in your protest. So what you do is you sandbag, the people when they come in here. And then you say that all these things are here, and you say, well, if you had all them, why wouldn't you just give them to me? They're from February, attach them.
Right, and I guess, I don't want to get into the role of council and what council can and can't do in terms of representing a client at a proceeding such as this, but where there is an MOU that sort of codifies conduct, it seems like it would be important to review that with the client who has had a protest and be aware of what the issues are. And I wouldn't even be surprised if, well, I'll just stop there. But I appreciate your comments, Mr. Kadinsky.
And I just would add that some of the other violations include plastic grocery bags used to store exposed food, and also no cold water at the kitchen sink. And the last and most important one to me, food contact service not effectively sanitized, dishes and glasses also not effectively sanitized.
Okay, what was the date of those code violations?
So this is from the 25th of February, 2017. And this inspection was done along with the Social Club Task Force, which subsequently closed the facility for operating after hours.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just one question to the councilman.
Sure.
Councilman, have you spoken with the owner?
No, not this owner. All of my experiences with this establishment, this isn't the first time that we've been here for this establishment. It's actually the last time I was at the liquor board was with this establishment a few years back, but I have not spoken to this owner.
Do you think it, do you, and as a leader of the community, do you think there's an opportunity at some point, regardless of what we do here, to sit down with him and on behalf of the community and with the community to?
Well, quite frankly, I think that the community feels that they've tried that multiple times, and that they keep giving them chances and promises are made that are not met and not kept.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, cross-examination.
Health violation issue.
Again, sir, it was issued to Goodfellas African Food Restaurant and Catering.
Who signed for it?
Who signed for it? Hold on one second. Actually, so the health department reports they only are signed by the inspector. The other reports are only taken by that they receive it is only given to the person on site. That is not a matter of public record.
It's not a matter of public record to whom they were given.
No, sir.
So they could give them to somebody walking by in the street, I would never know who it is.
No, sir. Seeing as though the establishment complied with the health department ask or direction to not be open for several days, I'm pretty sure it was given to the owner or someone at the establishment.
They were allowed to reopen, right?
Yeah, they were allowed to reopen after they met all the violations, which they were able to do.
And you said have you ever been in the place?
Yes, I have been in the place before.
When was the last time you were in?
Probably was in there in 2015.
But since this owner's been the licensee, you haven't been in there?
No, sir. I don't drink.
Well, I mean, it's not necessary. You can go to get something to eat, couldn't you?
I could.
Okay. Now,
I also don't eat out a lot because I read health department reports.
well, then that's probably a good reason a lot of places are suffering. With regard to, are you familiar with the New Bel Air Community Improvement Association?
No, sir. They are not an officially recognized community association by the city of Baltimore.
It's not. If I share something with the Department of Planning where they are recognized, you're saying this is not.
The Department of Planning website is not always correct.
Oh, so that so yours is correct, but mine isn't. Okay, I got that part of it. And as far as the owner of the property, but if you find it strange to believe that Strathmore Associates owns the property, the licensee doesn't own the property.
No, I would not be surprised to know that.
Mr. Kaminsky, I need you to use the microphone or the AV upstairs.
Put it offline. Did you know you were offline?
We don't want to miss you.
This morning. Let me see those.
Health department, there you go.
Oh, the other ones.
Which one? Oh, the housing ones? There you go, sir. Right there.
I'm sorry.
This is actually just a 311 list. These are the printouts from the city's 311 system about the actual those actual violations that I highlighted for
So you have one here where it says a car crashed in the building.
Yeah, but I didn't talk about that one at all.
But you said that they didn't pick up the bricks or something.
Yes, there's a code. So that's a code violation. So if you have something like that happen at your facility, if you're responsible for a facility, you have to secure it and make sure that it's not open to casual entry. And they did not do
You don't own
that.
the building.
If you're a responsible party for the building, you have to do that.
You don't know that they're a responsible party.
Well, no, the owner would be responsible, and we would only know if your client would tell us in his lease if he would be responsible.
And then the other one you hear, you talk about grass.
And
high
trash?
grass and weeds.
Yep.
And that's on the outside of the building, correct?
Yes, sir. Actually, I believe it was on outside the building for one, in the rear, then the trash can for the other.
And you're showing me a request for service here.
Yep.
Does it indicate who did the request?
So some of them are anonymous. So as you can see here, the citizen wanted to remain anonymous on this particular citation, and everything is anonymous. So it's not. These are different. But you don't have to say that. But this is the housing inspector that came out, and the citation was issued for trash.
All right, and it was after, what was the date on April
April the
2016?
Yes, sir.
Was it abated?
Yes, eventually it was abated.
Okay. Do you know what the abatement date was?
No. Well, what would happen is the only way you would know that it wasn't abated. So after the citation is given, they're given a time frame that they have to fix it. The inspector goes back out. If it's not abated, then they issue another one. If
For
it
the
is,
housing court?
yeah, no, not necessarily.
Environmental?
Not necessarily. That's if they want to fight the violation. If they go back out and it's not there anymore, then they carry on with their day. So, yes, sir. Go ahead.
And so the last time that you were in the establishment was prior to this owner here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know that they had meetings when this owner came in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you haven't gone back to?
No, sir.
I'm not finished.
Okay, any other questions from either commissioner? No?
One question.
Sure.
Mr. Councilman?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that while there have been a number of 311 calls about this establishment in the last year and beyond, there have been, since this licensee has owned the license, there have been no violations by this board. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir. My understanding is that there were some violations that have not yet come before the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Knowing that the health department closed the facility with the social club task force, I was also explained to by the health department that the liquor board actually closed the facility for operating after hours at the same time.
But with that, okay, well, we have no.
Yeah, you don't have that before you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I can only speak to the health department violations, which did happen during this time.
Thank you.
So we would not be able to consider
I know.
a violation that's never been brought before, so I just want to make that very, very clear. Okay, that would not be part of our considerations.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that?
You guys can have it. I have it.
With my objection, it doesn't, he's not the owner, it shows.
Yeah, overruled, and we will receive these as evidence.
There we go.
All right, any further cross for him? Anyone else that wishes to testify?
I've been calling the wrong number because I've been calling 911.
Okay, why don't you speak into the microphone? Just tell us what your name is, and then we'll.
My name is John Cosant.
John Cosia?
Cosant.
Can you
I live
spell
right
that for
across
us,
the road
please?
from the bar on Valley View. Cosant, C-A-S-S-A-N-T.
Cassant.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, what did you want us to know?
911 doesn't count. I guess it's because you're talking like 311. Because I keep calling 911. I didn't know any better. I get the cops down there.
So tell us.
I had my van smashed with patrons. It may not matter none. I've had my Honda smashed, and I still got them, so I got the damage shown, where they smashed in the back and busted the windows out and all that. I've called the cops each time. That's patrons of the bar. And I was awake, and most of the time when Kim was calling or had something to do, I would be awake. I'd be aware, because I was awake most of the night. Most of the time I was taking care of handicapped people, 2 of them, friends of mine. And the noise is not music, it's noise. It ain't, I don't know. I'm from old school, but it's not. I was in the bar, and I, in fact, got a couple drinks up there. I couldn't take it inside, but outside it's just like there's no rhythm, no nothing. And like I say, maybe I'm from old school, and my parents were the same way when we used to listen to country
My
western.
parents used to listen to Nancy Wilson. I mean, so,
Well,
you know,
That don't sound like
music
music.
appreciation depends on the ear.
Pardon?
Uh,
Okay,
Whether you
but
appreciate the music
I
depends
could,
on
yeah, well,
your
I could
personal
tape
preference.
it. I could tape it or something like you're saying. Get this information, get that information. We've been living there 10 years with the bull, stuff coming off. I generally keep my mouth shut because I don't know how to talk anyway, and then I get carried away a little sometimes.
You're doing a great job.
But
Right.
I've had windows I can show you, and I've replaced in the conversion van the big windows because I used to run my friends up to the hospital every time one had MS and the other had sugar diabetes and heart failure stuff.
So where do you live in relation to?
I live right across the street from Kim. The bar is here. Kim is here. I'm here.
So Kim is next door to the bar, or a couple doors,
Because
you're right across
less than 200 feet, I think,
and then you're right across the street from her.
from her. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So you mentioned that windows.
Maybe. Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned that windows had been broken in your car. How do you?
No, they just smash the windows. They just go crazy. I got the back end where the cars would get a little bit wobbly and come smashing in the back. Had the other van. I had two cousins. One of them got scrapped, but the other one just kept beating in the back. That's still sitting in front of my house.
And why do you associate that with Goodfellas?
I watched them come out of a bar, and I watched 15 or 20 people come by making all sorts of noise at 2 o'clock.
Okay.
This is last year. Now, this wasn't right recently.
Was that sometime between May 2016 and April 2017?
One time was definitely after May, and the cops, like I say, because I had them come up with windows that were busted out of the back of the van. Because I made a mistake of going over and trying to argue with them on the parking lot one time, and it didn't work too good.
What do you mean?
I got my tires slashed, I got my windows busted.
Okay.
And I had them, they park in front of my driveway a lot. And a lot of 911s was dead in front of my driveway. I couldn't get out if I had to go to the hospital with one of my friends or what. I couldn't get out, I couldn't do nothing.
When you say they, who are you?
People, whoever were driving the car or coming out of the bar, because I watched them come out of the car. Because with the noise, I couldn't get to sleep. I was trying to make it more quiet in the house, and I'd be sitting on the porch and I'd watch it happen.
Okay.
When they had, just a little stupid, but when they had it, I went out and bought a $600 camera to take the video of the bar. This is a few years ago. I don't know if Uzo was involved. Uzo has been a good guy to me, I think, but not with the music. And that music drives me nuts.
Oh, no, what do you mean he's been a good guy to you? What is
He's
that?
been okay. He's been friendly.
Mhm.
He hasn't been, threatening me or, because I had a couple. Well, I wouldn't even get into that.
Okay.
But I can't. I'm getting too old to stand. I can't hardly see too good, and it's getting a little agitating with when you tell him to quiet it down. And he has quieted it down. He can quiet it down, but it don't sound like any kind of music I've ever heard. And I've heard jive music. I mean, really, my daughter's into that jive music. But this is you'd have to see. You'd have to listen to it.
Okay.
Honest to God, you would.
Okay, so if I understand it, your issue is the noise, which you say is better now.
Yeah, I get junk. I get liquor bottles on the lawn. I get glass and stuff busted in the road, but I ain't no big deal. I get him to clean it up,
So the noise and trash, and then
I'm mouthing off too much, huh? Sorry.
yeah, just talk to us because we want to hear what you're saying. So it's like the noise, the trash, and then there was some incident with your car windows.
They
being-
smashing windows, and I go to crazy ways. I was because I used to be a mechanic all my life, and I just put another window in. Now the last one's still out of the van. The Honda roof is caved in, but it's driving. I don't care what it looks like. So,
Okay.
but I still got both vehicles. I mean,
Sure.
to testify.
Sure. Okay, I think we have the gist of it.
That's another thing.
do you
Do you have a police report for the damage done to your car?
Oh yeah, I had it for all of it. Yeah, I'd never claimed it.
So you don't have it with you today?
No, I didn't even think I'd be talking. I didn't think she'd let me talk. It's the truth.
Okay, all righty. Well, thank you very much.
I didn't know it mattered. I mean, I don't know if it matters with the customers leaving, because I know they were trying to hold the bar responsible for the drunks coming out of there, and I can't see how they could ever do that. I don't want to say that, it's his fault that this got done, because he didn't do it. They might have got the drink up there. I don't know. They might have got the drink before, went in this place, got drunk, and then come back out. So I don't know if it had anything to do with the patrons.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've had a few arguments with a couple of them I used to, and then I kind of got a little smarter.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, well, why don't you stay here? There might be some.
No questions.
You have no questions, you sure? Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
So I'm Mike Hilliard. I'm the Community Services Director of the Harbell Community Organization.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Mike Hilliard.
Mike Hilliard. Thank you.
I'm the Community Services Director of the Harbell Community Organization. We act as an umbrella over 27 communities in Northeast Baltimore. It's my understanding the MOU that Commissioner Greenfield was referring to in 2015 was done between the Valley Park Community Association and the current owner in lieu of an agreement that the Community Association would not protest the license that year. And again, as Councilman Scott noted, the current owner over this year period consideration has been in violation of that MOU, as Commissioner Moore has noted several times. In my position, what I hear the board would like communities to do is enter into agreements with community associations so that licenses can be issued. The issue becomes is when the MOU is negotiated and the licensee does not comply with it. The only real consequence is if the board takes some action, because the only other way I understand you can enforce those MOUs is by civil suit, and unfortunately, most community associations can't afford to do that. So,
Well, we do, if I could.
Go ahead.
We do attach it to the license, so, yeah, to your point. And so I just want to mention a little bit off topic, but, you know, we, under the chairman's direction, the commissioners and staff do come and meet with communities about issues, and we sort of help you, you know, in terms of how to best address alleged problem establishments, and we're always welcome to do that, you know, whether you call 911 or 311.
Commissioner, I have no argument with communication with the board. Mr. Karras and Mr. Page and I are on a first-name basis, so we exchange information all the time, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and I know this board has made itself available to communities for that purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any questions?
Yeah, did you have any personal contact with the licensee, you personally?
Not since 2015.
All right, and you haven't been in the place?
Not since 2015.
And you're not familiar with the New Bel Air Community Improvement Association? It's
No,
not
I
in
am
your
not.
group?
No.
Can I just show you this? It's another group in your
I
area.
would
It's Frankfurt,
restate-
Plainfield, Frankfurt, Plainfield, Woodley, and Parkwood. That's their area. You can have it. I'm going to submit it.
I am not aware of it. I would repeat what the councilman said, that I also often find the planning department's community association directory is often out of date and inaccurate. And I attempted many times to correct that with them, and to no avail.
Would you be surprised that this went on after the 2015, so it's current?
I have
Okay.
never heard of them, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I had a couple questions. So the New Bel Air Improvement Association, they're not part of your consortium, they're not under your umbrella, at least as of
To
yet?
make it clear, Commissioner Moore, our catchment area runs from Peering Parkway, Hillen Road, east to the city council line, county line, and from Urban Avenue to the Beltway. So I am not familiar with that association being within that area and active. They have never contacted me. I've never heard any issues from them. I've never had any discussions with the police department about them, or any information from other community associations to their existence.
Okay. And I just wanted to also ask you, you mentioned, there's been much mention of the memorandum of understanding. It was entered into in 2015. You said as a compromise at that time that it would be entered into in lieu of the community not protesting the license that year.
Yes, ma'am.
But, and can you just be clear, help me understand clearly the violations of the MOU that you believe have occurred in this license year, and that would be May 2016 to April 30, 2017?
Well, following the chair's instructions not to repeat previous testimony, I think
I'm
Councilman
asking you just to
Scott,
be clear.
Councilman
if you
Scott
can.
enumerated those. If I had testified personally, I would have enumerated everything Councilman Scott said. And particularly what I find of interest is two of those housing violations involve entrances to the kitchen and dumpsters, which to my knowledge are provided by the licensee. And the health code violation seems to specifically state the licensee. So those are obviously violations of local ordinances and codes.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. Anything further? I want you to come up, I think there was an issue with the microphone.
The MOU, your group is a signatory to this, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, in there, it says, should the community have any complaints concerning, J, I'm talking about 1J, any complaints concerning housing or environmental issues, they shall first notify licensee and owner of business before any complaint is sent. Do you know that's ever happened? You personally?
I'm aware of constant communication between Mr. Uzo and Ms. Sealover because I've been copied on emails between the two of them.
So those complaints were sent to them first before they were sent to the Department of Housing. You're sure of that? If you don't know, you don't know.
What I heard the question, and please clarify I'm wrong, is you were asking me is the complaints that were enumerated, were they conveyed to the owner, and do I have personal knowledge of them? I have personal knowledge of complaints being conveyed to the owner by Ms. Sealover because I was copied on emails between the two of them, and they both copied me on emails. As to specifically who called the housing code violation in and whether that was a community member and whether that was exchanged with the owner, I can't say.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Anything? All right, anyone else want to testify about the protest? All right, Mr. Kadensky.
You want to do my motion now, or you just? I can put some testimony.
I think you should probably put some testimony on.
Mr. Russo, you want to take that microphone there, because they'll holler at me because I'm down there.
We won't holler at you, we'll just invite you
Here's
to.
director up there, Directmeister. State your name and address for the record, please.
Uzo Musu, 1217 Roxborough Road, Baltimore, 21237.
And you've been the licensee there since 2015, is that correct?
Yes.
And along with that, you and I and the attorney for the, so we all met, is that correct, and went over a series of things to be done?
Yes.
All right. Let's first talk with the trash, because that seems to be something. Do you have pickup for trash?
Yes, I do.
How many times a week do they come?
Twice.
And you increase it to 2 times a week, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you notified Ms. Sealover that you were doing that?
Yes.
And there's a copy of your contract with, there's an extra one's here too if you want. Has there been a problem with people putting trash in there that didn't come from the business?
Yes.
And that you have somebody that goes out and cleans up around the neighborhood?
Yes, I do.
Who do you have that goes out and does that?
Ms. Renee?
Is she here?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, I'll get you. And during the past year, you had emails between yourself and Ms. Sealover, is that correct?
Yes.
And she had given a set of emails, and you had given me a set.
Yes.
And these basically would be, in reference to when she would call you, you would then give her an email back or tell her what was going on. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And submit these as the emails from, got some extra ones too, because you can look at them. So had you been at least compliant with regard to communication with Ms. Sealover?
I have, yes.
Now, would it be fair to say that, do you get calls from anybody other than her?
Never.
Okay. And you at one time offered to help her, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what were the circumstances concerning that?
Well, she had called me or emailed me and said one of the neighbors was bothering her, had left her a gift bag with, I think it was St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day, on her porch. It was some gin and something else. And she's asked this lady to stop reaching out to her. So I asked her who it was, and she said it's Terry. Well, Terry lives, they own a business right beside the bar. So I'm like, sure, what do you want me to do? So she asked me if my the camera on Valley View could see the front of her house. I'm like, yes. So we made arrangements. We met at the bar. You know, I played the video back to her. And unfortunately, it didn't really, you could see the activity of someone, you know, beside her house, but you can't see as far as the porch. And that's just the kind of person I am. And I offered her a drink, she refused, and she left.
And regarding the parking, do you have the parking for those 10 to 15 cars?
I do.
And what's the address is a Blair Road address, is that correct?
Actually, it's happened twice. The first parking plan that I had was with Cena Motors, which she's aware of. I said, well, no, I can't use that. The guy sells cars. There are always cars parked there. I'm like, Sheena has given me a letter saying I could use his lot for parking. He has one across the street and one on our side. Then when we met with Harbel Community, the gentleman who just spoke, there's a library on Harford Road. So Kim specifically said that her biggest problem is there's a parking lot between the bar and her house, right? And her window is right there. So I said, Kim, what we could do is this. I'll block off that parking lot. Nobody will ever park there, right? But I'm going to use the parking lot across the street from the bar, which is the one she was referring to at the Bel Air Road address. And she said, okay. And also we agreed to provide security. I have security there every night. Every night. And she's aware of this. And I've instructed my security, make sure nobody drives on that one-way street. Make sure they park on Kennedy's lot on Bel Air Road, right? And they do a pretty good job, right? Now, also, another thing we agreed to was that's about it, security on parking. Security on parking for the most part.
You put
yes.
that sign in the window there.
That's what I was thinking of, the sign on the window. So I did a sign, I put it on the window on Valley View, and I communicate with Kim every step of the way, right?
And let me ask you this question. You have the outside of the building lit, is that correct?
Put the lights up, put the cameras up. The police, there have been incidents across the street on Bel Air Road. The police comes to us to review videos, we show it to them. Just like I helped her out when she had this problem.
And you're basically on Bel Air Road, which is a business area.
Yes.
And you have, next to you, you have the Master Plan Worship Center. It's a church
correct.
and so forth. And that pastor is saying, I'll submit that letter.
Yes.
And you have some of the other people on Bel Air Road that have sent in letters of support.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to submit as a package copies showing the security, the lighting outside, and if they have any question, they can add. You have a lot behind the bar, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then who parks on that lot?
Nobody parks there now because the agreement was because it's so close to Kim's house, to Ms. Silver's house, just block it off. So I put some cones there. The cones vanished. I told her about somebody stole the cones. She said, oh, so I have some cones. She actually gave us some cones. So it's still blocked off, that parking lot.
Now, there was some mention about a car running into the building, and you had to close the business for a time.
Yeah.
That car, those people had nothing to do with your business.
No.
It was this accident that happened on Blair Road.
Yes.
And you had approximately $17,000 worth of damage done, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I'll submit copies of
And also after the accident, again, I called Kim and I told her there was an accident. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but that we'd have to go through the repair process. And she said, thanks for the call.
I'm sure the board would like to know about that health department violation. Can you explain that a little bit?
The health department did visit in February, and unfortunately, the chef right there. He wasn't around. Or he went for a wake keeping. Somebody had passed on his family. And we had those violations. That's true, right?
Did you correct them promptly?
Absolutely, absolutely. We had to go for a conference with the health department, provided all the necessary paperwork, training, all that stuff. And we were open in a week's time. And they came back and did the re-inspection, and we passed the inspection.
And to be fair, after you met and you had those meetings with the MOU,
Right.
and that you did set up meetings at your establishment, correct?
Yes, I've tried, yeah. Nobody,
monthly or-
they don't come to the bar.
Nobody
they,
came?
They just don't come.
Right, and you're there all the time?
Yes.
And along with you, some of the people that come down here are people that both live in an area and they
Yes.
also are customers, correct?
That's correct.
And I mentioned to you before, and I'll submit these, the pastor of the Master Plan Worship Center, you told me her name, and I can't remember right now.
Pastor
Monica.
Monica?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's right next door to the
She has
restaurant.
given you a letter of support, and she's right next door, correct?
Yes, yes. And okay, if I could say, I'll add to this, as far as Mr. Kassan and the break-ins, we did notice that the people's cars were being broken into, right? So I called Kim, and I told her, please tell the neighbors that there are people going around on Bel Air Road breaking people's cars, my customers as well, right? And she said, well, as far as she knows, none of her co-residents has been burglarized or had their stuff broken into. But thanks for the call, you know, and I asked the Baltimore City Police to have patrols all the time.
And you have a letter here from Terry Martin. He's at 4925 Blair Road in support. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what is type of business does he have?
It's a air conditioner refrigeration company. Yes.
And you have a letter from.
That's the parking lot. They own the parking lot that we blocked off
Okay, well,
to prevent people from parking. Yeah. Yeah.
And you had a letter from Mr. Keon Moon, who actually owns a liquor store.
Yes.
At 4901 Blair Road.
Yes.
Additionally, you have a letter here from Cena Auto Sales. Is that one of the lots you're talking about?
That's correct. That's correct.
He can be in support, he just can't be opposed.
Can't be a protester.
Right. Such good ears.
And additionally with that, you had given me a petition of persons who had signed in favor I think there are about 50-something names on here. You can look at the addresses that are in the area in support. Along with that, the individuals that came down here, a few of them you indicated would, I'll try to be brief, would talk. And there, I think there's 12 people have come down here in person who have signed. Ms. Russell asked me if I would get a list, so I'm trying to help her and myself.
Thank you. So these are people that are present today.
Right.
Yes.
Protest hearing in favor of Goodfellas.
Now, how do you address the question about loud music, the complaints about loud music?
Well, sometimes, like Mr. Kassan said, it's people's cars. I have written to Kim that there are several people on Valley View who play loud music when driving by Valley View. They may not come to the bar. They go out to other places, right? Some of it may be my customers. I'm not doubting that. And that's why we have security, and myself and my brother there, we're always on top of it. Always.
If somebody would complain to you and you could identify that person who is causing the problem, would you readily address it and either tell them that they got to stop or they can't come in there anymore?
Honestly, they are banned.
Mhm.
They are.
All right, and then along with that, you know, the food, you have a food operation. What kind of food? Because sometimes the commissioners are
Yeah,
interested.
we're
what
kind of
food
like,
you have.
it's a Nigerian themed restaurant. We serve Nigerian food.
You got goat there too, right?
Goat meat, you know, and we're one of the last few standing.
Board have any questions?
I think what I want to hone in on, just speaking for myself, is the issue with respect to parking and trash. And I just want to get clarity. The agreement was to provide basically off-street parking, correct?
Yes, off Valley View.
Off Valley View.
Yes.
And what actually has been provided off Valley View?
Well, we have the permission to park at the Cena lots, Cena Motors lot.
Who wrote
which
a
is on-
letter in your behalf?
Yes, and also, after we wrote the MOU, I can't recall if it was before or after, but customers used to park on J.G. Martin's lot, which is the one we blocked off. So when I met with Kim, my brother, and the Harbor community, we agreed, okay, let's block off the immediate problem, which is customers parking really close to our house. So we blocked that off, and then we used the parking lot right across the street from the bar, which is on Bel Air Road.
Right across the street from.
Yes, and there's a picture
Miss-
of the, yes.
From, is it Kim C. Lover?
Oh, no, that's Kim.
Uh,
There's a parking lot right across the bar,
Okay.
It's in,
which is
those
where we
pictures we
use.
submitted.
So
And
that's.
then, of course, on Bel Air Road itself,
Okay.
right.
All right. And do you understand why there's a complaint that the MOU portion relating to parking has been violated? Do you understand that complaint?
Honestly, I do not.
You don't? Okay. Regarding the trash, you've heard the testimony that the trash bins are overflowing, that that part of the MOU has not been honored. What have you done to address that?
As far as the trash is concerned, after the accident, right, because they took away the railings and everything in front of the building, right? So I called Kim and I told her that there was an accident and we are working on fixing it. Now, during that construction, there was bricks and all kinds of stuff. So what we do is, because of the pileup of materials from the rebuilding, we take all the trash, put it in the basement if the dumpster is full, right? I called the trash company and I told them we have this problem. So what happens is when they come on Monday or Thursday, right, Ms. Renee is right there, we bring the trash out, right, and wait for them. So we used to put them on the floor. They said, no, just put it on top of the dumpster because when they come, they move the whole thing and throw it in. So that's where those pictures are from.
Okay.
You can't see anything out there on any other day but on trash pickup day.
So is that a fairly?
That was because of the accident.
Okay. Now this change, is that fairly recent? Because it looked like there was something dated April 24 that suggested a change into the trash pickup.
I called the trash company to send me a note saying that we're doing bi-weekly pickups.
Okay, and when did the biweekly pickup start?
It's been over a year now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been over a year.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, I have some
Okay.
questions. What's your capacity at your restaurant?
It's 160.
160. And you have, as you said, trash picked up twice a week.
Bi-weekly, yes, sir.
Do you think that's enough for 160 capacity? I assume it's not always a capacity.
No, we don't even get
No.
40 people in there.
Would you be open to increasing your trash pickup?
Absolutely, yes.
And a question about the parking. How do you ensure that your patrons are parking where you direct them to park?
Okay, two things I do. With security is in front of the building, right, to direct them where to park. And there's also the sign on the side of the building and also a sign inside. And I make it a point, once I pull up there and I see anybody parked, I call Rock right away. Please, do that right now. There was actually a time where a pickup truck was parked on the wrong side of the one-way, right? And I called Kim, I'm like, please, that car has been here for a couple of days. It's not my customer. She's like, oh yeah, I saw the car when I came back from work. I'm like, you haven't dialed 311? I was just joking.
Sure.
She said, no, she hasn't had time. So I personally called 311, and they moved that pickup truck from there.
So the signs and then the personal engagement by you or
By
someone else?
me, the security, or him.
Now, I understand there are two issues with music. One is cars that drive by, which, you know, you can encourage your patrons if they're the ones driving by to turn it down, but I recognize some of them aren't patrons. And the other I note in Ms. Seelover's email is music in the establishment, booming, as she put it, from an email on November 18th. So the question is, first of all, do you have a live entertainment? Do you have permission? You do not?
No.
Okay.
Just play music videos, that's all. Nigerian music videos on the TV. That's
Okay.
that's all.
And how do you control that volume?
From a laptop. That's all.
And how do you know if it's too loud?
I do it myself.
No, but how do you know, what's your,
Oh, okay. Well, what we do is we always walk out. I personally go in front of our house, me and him, and stand right there, you know, multiple times.
okay.
Multiple times. Security does it too, just to keep the peace. And I have somebody who lives right beside Kim.
So I'm struggling
Okay.
a little bit with this case, because, and let me explain why. And while there hasn't been any liquor board violations to date, we do know that there's an MOU. We also know that there are a number of 311 and likely 911 calls. In addition, we found out that there were some health code violations. So you're in a tough predicament here because, as you probably know, because in many ways, from my understanding of the MOU, you have violated the MOU, it seems to me, as a personal opinion. But I do think you have with respect to some of these healthcare code issues. But yet, we don't have any violations of our own record. So I'm trying to remedy that in my head, reconcile it, and that's why I'm curious about. I do appreciate, on the other hand, I give you a lot of credit for at least being responsive to the community from what I gather, but it's not enough for them. So assuming we renew you today, what assurance can you give the community that the current practice will no longer stand?
Well, what I could do is to increase the trash pickup, make it 3 times a week. Put a bigger sign than what is there right now about do not park on Valley View. Invite them to come and visit the bar, or come unannounced to see things for themselves, because neither one of them have been. The only time Kim has been there was when she asked me to pull the video for her. That way you can see things for yourself, right? And also, if the neighborhood is, if you just reach out to me. I'm always with 24 hours a day.
I appreciate that, and what I sense here is that there's a lot of emails that go back and forth.
Yes.
The chair would probably kick me under the table, but this is a little bit like me and my ex-wife. There's a lot of emails, but there's no face-to-face.
Yeah.
I'm telling too much.
You're kicked.
So, but my point is I do think there's something to be said for face-to-face meetings.
I agree.
And getting everything out on the table, and I think that is lacking. Although, again, the communication is strong. But there's clearly frustration on the part of the community. I have nothing more.
Commissioner Jones?
Nothing really.
Okay. Any
Just as a
redirect?
follow-up, that was the reason why you were setting up those meetings
Right.
for them to come, and nobody came.
Dollar crabs, free crabs for the neighborhood.
And in addition to that, you did put soundproofing up, is that correct?
I did put
At your expense?
soundproofing up, yes.
All right, so you did do that. So, but you were willing to have those meetings at your expense, but nobody came to the meetings.
That's correct.
Okay. You know, it's like the wedding that nobody came to.
That's never happened.
Well,
Let's move forward.
Just trying to address
Yeah. All right, anything else?
There's a lady that says she lives on the same block. I mean, I know she came over there, and when I get,
So,
then the rest will be cumulative. I'll
all
try.
right. Now, I observed you come in a little bit late. Have you been sworn? Okay, then we need to have you sworn in, please. Could you,
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And you want to take that microphone over there, please? You state your name and address to the record, please.
Ronetta Addison, 4207 Valley View Avenue.
4207 Valley View Avenue.
Name again? I didn't hear anything.
He wants your name to give it to her real slow.
Ronetta Addison.
Rondell?
Ronetta.
Anderson.
Spell it, please, first name.
Ronetta.
and that's Anderson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
So you live within a couple of buildings of the establishment, is that correct?
I live directly across the street from Cal.
All right. Do you have any problems with the way the place is operated?
No.
And you live there every day, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you frequent the place? Do you go in there?
Say it again.
Do you go in? Do you?
From time to time when I have a break.
Yeah. So you are actually one of the people that live there that actually frequents the place, is that correct?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
So you live right across the street?
Yes.
And you say that you go in there from time to time when you have time. What does that mean?
Like, I may go in there and order food. Sometimes I don't like to cook. I may go in there and just order food and then.
Okay. So you go in and order food and then like take out?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever go there for social time, for drinking and meeting friends, eating there?
I mean, I ate in there before, like, when I don't want to be bothered in my house. Like, I have took a drink, like, every now and then, like, but I'm not a drinker. But
You're not a drinker?
I don't have, like, all this complaint that I'm hearing, I don't have.
All right. Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
And what hours do you work?
I work in the daytime. I work early in the morning.
All right. What is it? Tell me, can you just briefly?
Oh, from like 8 to 2 or 8 to 4.
8 a.m. to 2
Yes.
p.m.?
Or even to 4 p.m.
Okay. And in your testimony is you don't hear the noise, you don't have issues?
No, because one thing about me, I have grandkids. I have a 2-month-old, and if it be loud noise, I'll say something. But I never had no loud noise. I live right there. I don't even hear. You got to go up the street to really hear, up there at the lounge to really hear the music. And you really don't even really hear it outside.
Okay. And how old are your grandkids?
I got a 2-month-old, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
And they all live with you?
Ma'am.
And they live with you?
Mhm.
Okay. I have a 9-month-old. It's grandchild.
I was about to say,
To be very clear, it is my grandchild. This is like family court here. We have to be very careful. I love my grandson, and I have a 10-year-old granddaughter. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Any cross? Any other commissioner questions?
The rest would be Kuhn, the lady that cleans up his, no, I'm sorry, again.
One day I was coming home, there was some guys down there with a truck. I caught them dumping trash, throwing trash around their trash can. I told him I was going to tell him. So when I seen him, I told him, I said I tried to get the tag number because they was putting trash into their dumpster and it was on top and wasn't no trash. The dumpster was just dumped. And I told the guy I was going to tell. He was like, mind your business. I'm going to tell them that you put that trash over there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, the lady who does the cleanup, but the rest of the people that are here are cumulative, and I would thank him for coming down. Just to, you can rule in the motion on the merits, whatever you want to do at this time. But my feeling is that the MOU is the MOU. If you don't get together and talk about the MOU, it doesn't make any difference one way or the other. I remember when we did it, we said we have these meetings, you come over, he offered the place, Saturdays, nobody came. So you can't, if the people don't come, and my pet peeve is that when you say the community, these people are the community also. So you can't just say that's them, there's other groups. So, and then nobody is going to be in favor of everything. Your inspectors' reports, and I'm going through them, they would come and see what it was. They was unfounded, say the place was open after hours, they were open aren't off the hours. There were no arrests in the place. There's been no problems in the place, things that happen on the outside. Things happen everywhere on the outside here. And I can't lay that at his footsteps, he would say, if you would tell him that this is the person who's playing loud music, who's throwing bottles, then he could then say, I can't have you come in the place. So he would agree. If it's the trash, and you saw what happens sometimes, that they empty it, their neighbors, they throw their trash in there. They think it's a community trash bin. He had agreed to include, he got the parking across the street so they would mark away from it. The church next door and the other people in there, they are in favor. So I don't think it's a kind of case where he has not been compliant. And you can see the emails that go back and forth. There is that discourse. And when, quite frankly, he needs some help, he pitched in and said, if you think that somebody's doing it, I'll try to help you.
Yeah. So I'm going to consider that as your closing argument, unless you choose that not to be your closing argument. So with respect to the motion to dismiss, after hearing the testimony both against the testimony protesting renewal and the testimony in favor of renewal, I'm going to deny the motion to dismiss. I believe that the protest does provide the specificity that we require. It was signed by 10 or more people. There does seem to be proximity to the licensee. There was an issue with respect to the date of the application and it not being clear when the application or the protest of renewal was actually filed. We do have before us the actual protest of renewal with the date stamping and the certified mail receipt that shows that it was timely filed. So for those reasons, I believe that the motion to dismiss should be denied, and I do deny the motion to dismiss. Is there anything that you want to add with respect to the opposition to the protest of renewal?
The mine was not so much the one that was filed as when the people who signed it. As you noticed today, when people came in, they signed, they were here this date. I don't, I'm not, there are barely 11 there, so I'd like to know when the date was. That was the only thing I'd add.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break and just for about 5 minutes, and we'll come back and I'll start with the decision phase. All right, so if anybody wants to stand up, take a stretch for 5 minutes. All right, I'm going to run too. All right.
I'm making my judgment based on what occurred between May 1 and March the 31st. And in that time span, some things did happen. A citation was issued. It was corrected because a follow-up citation wasn't issued. Another violation notice from housing was never issued. So I'm assuming, based on what I'm looking at, and there was some other evidence brought forward, that was taken care of. The second thing was that the establishment was closed down by the health department. And that came between February the 25th, 2017, and closed down from that period to May 2nd, 2017. It was taken care of, and that didn't come back before us again, or anyone again. At least I don't have any evidence here saying that anything else happened. So, the dumpster, which is part of the trash complaint, and based on the testimony, that situation was at a point where they had to address it with the establishment. And based on the testimony by Mrs. Kim, the situation got better. Those are the trash, the dumpster, and parking. The parking supposedly was taken care of, was changed from a location adjacent to Mrs. Kim's house and placed across the street with an agreement. And later, it was said that it was impossible for them to park on the lot because there was no curb cut to get the vehicles on the lot. But there must have been some type of way to get vehicles on that lot because it's a used car lot, there are other cars parked there. I'm a little confused about that. But even if that was the case, that the cars could not park there, and there's a section here in the MOU, which is J, that gives a direction as to how cases should be resolved. I didn't hear much testimony as to whether or not that process was followed in a correct manner. Someone did mention that they talked with, and then after that, we sent a referral into. I don't see enough here to close this establishment down. Do they need to be better tenants? Yes, they do. Are there some things that they can talk about with the community? Yes, there are some things they need to talk about. I'm not in the business of closing people down just to be doing it. I think if they do something significant enough, then they should be. And just because I'm voting this way this time, if I'm around the next time, it doesn't mean I'm going to vote this way again. So the owner of this establishment needs to take heed that everybody don't like the way you're operating. Not only the community folks, but we already have one member of this panel who already said no. If you survive this, you got a lot of work to do. But I'm voting no at this time based on the information I received.
Could you just clarify your vote?
No, I'm not against it. I'm not going for the, close them down.
Okay, all right.
Commissioner Moore had mentioned that these are tough decisions because it's a death penalty. Your license is gone if we revoke, which means you can't sell it, the asset's forever gone. So this is serious stuff, as I'm sure you know, and I know the community wouldn't take this step unless they were frustrated. I'm struggling with this case because there is an existing MOU, and this commission has been very clear that that MOUs are important. They're important for engagement, they're important for communication. But with respect to, as Commissioner Jones mentioned, there are really three issues here that have been cited. The trash issue, which you've increased it 2 times a week and have said very clearly on the record you would increase it. Parking, which I'm not clear on, but seems to be a very significant issue. And then the music, which, again, I'm not clear on how you're going to remedy that issue, assuming you get renewed. But the fact that you are in violation of the MOU is very troubling to me. And so what I'm struggling with is whether these two communities can be saved, whether there is an opportunity for the two sides to actually work something out. Because in the alternative right now, it's the death penalty. Your assets gone, jobs are gone, but at the same time, it potentially benefits the community. So this is tough. The three of us have very tough decisions to make in these protests of renewal. So I keep coming back to, can this be saved? And I'm of the opinion that it can be. And I'm of the opinion that I think both sides are sincere and have shown good faith in trying to remedy these issues. But having said that, assuming you get renewed, like Commissioner Jones said, I wouldn't want to see you back here on a violation because I suspect it'll be a very stiff penalty. The health code violations are of extreme concern to me. I do credit you with getting it resolved as quickly as possible, but it's an issue. So I'm going to concur with Commissioner Jones and vote to renew, but reluctantly. And I would encourage you by all means to meet with Ms. Seelover, Mr. Hilliard, Mr. Cassant as often as possible. I think you have the burden to make that happen. And I would encourage the community to work closely with our staff and the inspectors to make sure that that staff is well aware of some of these issues because it's very likely you'll be coming back. I don't want to see you back, but it's very likely. So for those reasons, I reluctantly vote to renew.
Okay, so the vote is 2 in favor of renewing, 1 against renewal, so your license will be renewed. I think you've sat here, you've heard everything. I think there's clarity as to what the issues are and what the concerns are. They're very real. Your right to do business can't be carried out in detriment to folks' rights to live in their homes. So you do have a lot of work to do, but you have the opportunity to do that work. Okay, thank you very much.
Might call exhibits for the record.
Yes.
Board Exhibit 1, email from Kim C. Lover dated 4/26/2017. Board Exhibit 2, MOU between licensee and Frankfurt Improvement Association, Valley Park Community Association, Harbell Community Association. Protesting Exhibit. Protesting Exhibit 1, Health Department Citation Report. Protesting Exhibit 2, Service Request Search Summary Report. Protesting Exhibit 3, Housing Department Service Request dated 4/5/16. Licensee exhibits. Licensee Exhibit 1, photo of parking sign. Licensee Exhibit 2, long docket 311 complaints. Licensee Exhibit 3, 15
I think we can keep rolling.
in
We've
total
had a
Baltimore
break.
City Liquor Board inspection reports. Licensee Exhibit 4, STAT property search and deed.
Okay, thank you.
Licensee Exhibit 5, Department of Planning Community Association directory entry. Licensee Exhibit 6, email in reference to trash service increase. Licensee Exhibit 7, email correspondence between Kim C. Lover and licensee, 17 pages. Licensee Exhibit 8, photos of property, 10 photos. Licensee Exhibit 9, construction project proposal dated 12/20/2016. Licensee Exhibit 10, photos of building damage, 6 in total. Licensee Exhibit 11, email of support, Monica Flowers. Licensee Exhibit 12, 3 letters of support dated 4/18/2017. Licensee Exhibit 13, petition of support. And Licensee Exhibit 14, persons in support sign-in sheet, 2 pages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadinsky, do you have the next matter?
Let me clarify for the board. The next case was supposed to be heard by Gary Maslin. He was admitted to the hospital last night, kept him overnight, and he was going to be released 11:30. He called me, and he was ready to come then. Then they had to take him back in, and he said, would I take it for him? I said, well, it's up to the choice of the licensee, since it wasn't really not my case, if they want to go forward with it, or they could ask the board for a postponement. I know the issues that he was going to raise. They said they would go forward with it, and I'll do the best I can. It's really, I hope things are all right with Gary, because he was supposed to leave for Nicaragua in a couple of days. He just canceled it, and his blood pressure was like 230 over, and it was through the roof.
Well, very sorry to hear about Mr. Maslin's health issue, but it sounds like you're ready to proceed.
Yeah.
Well, let me just ask you this. Do you need a break?
Hmm?
Do you need a break? Do you need a minute to talk to your clients? Are you're
No,
we're good to go?
I think I know what.
Okay, and if you don't need a break, then we will proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, you want to call the case?
I'm sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay.
In the 3 p.m. docket, Jay Chong and Sue Kim, JC Star LLC, trading as Red Fox Liquors, 2733 through 35 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, we are here on the protest of renewal of JF Star LLC, trading as Red Fox Liquors, Pennsylvania Avenue. Would everyone who wishes to testify in this matter come forward and raise your right hand and be sworn?
swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Once again, for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky. I would make, and I talked with Mr. Maslin basically on the phone, a motion to dismiss on the grounds of lack of specificity, vagueness, date, time, and place are missing from the protest of the renewal of the license, which I think is very important in the case. Second of all, and I think, and I was having a look at it with Mr. Maslin, is they have the wrong address. The end of this place is at 273335 Pennsylvania Avenue. They have 2533 Pennsylvania Avenue. People in the immediate vicinity would know the address of the place they're protesting, and this time would have to fail. Second of all, they have the name Red Tavern, and it's never been known as that. It's always been the Red Fox Liquors. So for those additional reasons, I would say that the petition fails. Plus, I was advised by Mr. Maslin that the people who signed at 2601 Francis Avenue, which is 2 or 3 people, it's a vacant house. The people for 2418 Pennsylvania Avenue, they are not residents there. They are business persons. They do not live in an immediate vicinity. And that the address on Upner Road is probably several miles away. So all those things cumulatively, I think that the petition would have to fail. More particularly, if you are protesting and as you're enthused about it, you would know the address of the place when you put it on there as an immediate, immediate vicinity. And number 2, the name of the place. Obviously, the licensee is the JC Star LLC, the 2 individuals trading as Red Fox Liquors, which is not on this petition.
So I'll be frank with you. I think that I don't know. My assumption is that all of the literature that the liquor board's been provided is accurate. It's 2733 to 35 Pennsylvania Avenue, Red Fox Liquors, and that's our summary sheet that we've been provided. I do see that all of the backup material relates to that address, 2733 to 35 Red Fox Liquors. The actual protest itself says 2533 Pennsylvania Avenue and Red Tavern, and I'm assuming that's a typo. In terms of the address, the Red Tavern is the wrong name.
The only thing I would say is that if the specifics of the law say it has to be followed, then, certainly when it came in, the board, when they vet these things, should have said, this is not the right place or the right address. And then to put the burden is not on the licensee, being on the people who say they live in an immediate vicinity and they know what they're protesting. That is not it. The board did what they're supposed to because that's the only place that they have there, and they don't. It's not close.
It's certainly concerning, the wrong address and the wrong name. Let me just, do you mind, Mr. Kidd, let me defer for just, I want to ask a few questions just about how this application was prepared. And could you just state your name, please?
My name is Annie Hall. I'm president of the Penn North Community Association.
Okay. And can you just give us a little background
It was brought to me by one of the people in the neighborhood that had been complaining. I'm president of the neighborhood association. And my mistake, because I didn't look at the address, okay? But they asked me, and when I came, I observed what was going on. First of all, it has a 7-day license, and most of the complaints were that they weren't opening the tavern. The tavern was not open to the public. Right. That was most of the complaints. Okay. And so when they brought it to me, it was my fault because I did not look at, but I clearly know that it's 2733 to 2735 Pennsylvania Avenue. However, if they have a BD7 license, they should be operating as a BD7 facility and not just a packaged goods.
Mm-hmm. Do you know whether anybody in the neighborhood ever called and complained about this location? Do you know?
People, well,
Would call 311?
yes, they told me that they called 311. I don't have any, I didn't have any calls, but I did talk to the Western District Police Station, and they have received numerous calls about this establishment. Plus, it's on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's the first block of Pennsylvania Avenue, coming in from the county, right there on the corner. And they, Mr. Chong and I have talked. We're willing to come up with an agreement, but I just want the liquor board to know that it sits right there on the corner. I was concerned because one day I was waiting for the bus, and they're hanging all out the doors of the establishment, the steps, a lot of trash, a lot of dirt. I expressed those to Mr. Chong, and he has since cleaned it up.
Okay, that's positive.
Right. So
Very positive.
What I was here for, and hoping that we could come up with a memorandum of understanding where if he has a BD7 license, he must open up that tavern so that people won't keep complaining. He's doing 6 day business on a 7-day license.
Right.
And which is unfair to those people that want to use that tavern.
Well, let me just slow down just a little bit, because we do have a technical issue.
I understand it's a technical issue.
Right, but you're here, and the licensee is here. You're making an invitation to engage in a discussion to develop a memorandum of understanding. I haven't had an opportunity to ask, but I'm seeing some nods, and it seems like that might be something the licensee would be willing to do. Am I
He
accurate?
said he wouldn't be adverse to sitting down with them. I'd rather he
already
get
talked.
together with Mr. Maslin, who that's his client, but he said he would do it.
Okay.
He's been there since never had any violations, no complaints, so he'd be willing
Oh,
to meet
no,
with them.
they were closed down because of the violations of them not being open, the length of time that they were. So y'all were closed for y'all had to close on, they couldn't open up on Sundays for what, was it like 2 weeks?
Right, so here's what I want to do. We definitely have almost a perfect storm of things that have gone wrong with this protest. Mr. Maslin, who we all know, who has been here a lot, is very ill. And anytime someone goes to the hospital and they're admitted, but then they're allowed to be released but have to be readmitted, we know that, and he is very responsible. He is a very good lawyer. He's been doing this for a long time. And the only reason he's not here, as I understand it, is he's very ill. Mr. Kadensky is very able counsel, he's prepared to go forward. He has identified a very legal, technical issue that really does great harm to the protest. However, there are a lot of lemons on the table, got a little bit of sugar. We're going to make some lemonade.
Okay.
You've asked for opportunity to talk and enter into a memorandum of understanding. The licensee is saying, yes, let's do that. And through counsel, there's been affirmation that there will be that discussion. So with that, and you've identified one of the big issues is that they have a BD7 license, they're not open 7 days, there's not access to the tavern area. The protest of renewal is very specific. There are a lot of things that are raised, so there's a lot of issues to talk about. So what I would like to do, I need to go on and rule on the motion to dismiss, and my inclination is to grant that motion to dismiss because of the technical reasons that we've already identified.
Sorry, that was just my pen.
Wow. I thought you were trying to tell me to stop talking.
No, you're doing a great job. Maybe I was surprised by your decision, I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's like, so what I'm going to do is rule on that motion, and I think we will then put a little bit more on the record that there's agreement to go ahead and enter into an MOU or to have those discussions, and then we're going to call it a day, okay?
Okay.
All right.
You understand that you're going to meet with the community, with Mr. Maslin, and talk about a memorandum of understanding, correct? Yes, okay, fine.
All right, so
We had already discussed that.
and that's fantastic. Whenever we can get folks to talk and try to resolve the issues, that is ideal, because as Commissioner Greenfield has said and as Commissioner Jones has said, the denial of renewal is a death sentence for a license. Yeah, which you might wish that to be the case.
No. As a community leader and working along with the Pennsylvania Avenue Main Street, we're not trying to lose any businesses off of Pennsylvania Avenue because we're trying to bring Pennsylvania Avenue back. However, what we are trying to do is make sure that those businesses that are there are doing things that are legal. And that's the whole thing in a nutshell.
So I appreciate that. I think we all of us here on this side and on your side appreciate that. So let me go ahead and rule on the motion to dismiss. I am going to grant the motion to dismiss for the reasons stated, and just to be clear, I'm granting it on the sole basis of the petition having the wrong address and the wrong licensee.
Okay.
So that's a technical violation, and I'm going to grant that motion. Further, there have been offers. There's been a request and acceptance of an offer to meet and confer and try to reach a memorandum of understanding to address the issues that were highlighted in the protest of renewal. So that is going to happen through council. There's been agreement that that will happen through you and the neighborhood representatives. There's been agreement that that's going to happen. So we will be looking forward to that happening. When it happens, we would like to know about it so that that memorandum of understanding can be made part of the license. That can only be done by agreement of the licensee. So we will look forward to that.
Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
Technically, I see, even with the protests, I've brought it to the board's attention that they are not operating as they should. So how will that be addressed, currently?
So our chief inspector is here, and he's hearing this. He can, I would encourage you, first have that conversation about the memorandum of understanding and get that agreement.
Okay.
And at any time, if you feel that the agreement isn't being honored or you're observing issues that you believe are a violation of the liquor board laws, call 311 or call the office. You can speak directly to the chief inspector if you feel that you wish to do that, or Mr. Akris or Mr. Page, and they will hear your issue. They will hear your complaint.
And is that Detective Greenhill? Who is the chief inspector?
The chief inspector, if he would just stand, is Chief Mark Fossler.
Oh, okay.
And he's a really nice guy. Don't be intimidated by his badge. I even have a badge, although I forget to even show it. So with that, the petition is dismissed for the reasons stated. There is agreement to talk further. That will happen. Would either commissioner want to add anything?
I'm good.
You don't want to talk, Harvey?
He's closed his book.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you to withdraw your protest.
Oh, well.
No, you can't.
Oh, well, obviously, me being in the rush to get it in.
And I just want to interrupt. I notice people are leaving, and I just want to,
They were Main Street.
And I just want to thank them for coming. Yeah. Because these things happen, the agreements get reached, the promises get made because there are people in the room, and the licensee understands the seriousness of it. So I want to be on record. We want to be on record as thanking them.
And I can honestly say.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
I just want to ask that we do have our Western District representative here, and I'm the Western District Community Relations Council President. When you have this conversation for the MOU, please invite us to be a part of it. So then that encompasses all of the Western District.
Give your name for the record.
Inez Robb, R-O-B-B.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Robb. We all, Ms. Robb. The Ms. Robb. Not just Ms. Robb, the Ms. Robb. Okay.
Yeah, we see her so much. It's a commonplace. I'm going to miss you if you stop coming.
Right.
But no, thank you for coming. Thank you for being willing to engage in discussions with the licensees.
Well, we have, and I've seen a market improvement since we talked.
Terrific.
I've seen a market improvement since we talked. So I feel as though, looking at what he has done, I believe that we could work together, to make it, a successful tavern. I'm even engaging him to work with the people from the Art Social so that we can, they can give him some rules on, running the tavern part of the bar, since he hasn't done it. He was saying he didn't know what to do. So I reached out to people that I know can help him, because we don't want to lose any more business on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Excellent. Well, here we are 2 years after one of the most pivotal times in our city's history, and you all are a model of what can happen when people communicate. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, were there any?
No exhibits.
No exhibits, okay.
I'm glad.
Gary, are you feeling better? Come down to the hospital, tell me.
And we're done.
I'll explain what happened, okay?
Oh, I don't know what I have. But I'll give, oh, wait, no, this is,
No, this is the original one for this.
oh, sorry, okay.
And I've gone through it, make sure that I go through that corner, there's no trash out there anymore. You know, I don't have people on that corner.
Excellent start.
Ines Fox. Thank you for coming, Mr. Jones.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I was sick, got messed up on y'all, but.
Oh, that's okay.
I got
You
the
okay?
cough, yeah, I'm okay. I got the cough and I got y'all.
Talk about the changes that I'm durable.